Maybe we should change the way that we hire football coaches, Diesel, Tolos. I have a thought experiment on this Thursday edition. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on what is a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in the upstate. But I do have a thought experiment, Diesel, when it comes to college football, when it comes to every coach and their mother being fired and many coaches on the hot seat. I want to ask you and the Tolos to join me in this thought experiment where I ask the question, a big picture question. Should athletic directors change how they hire head football coach or coaches in today's modern era of college football? What do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you. Shane Beamer and Dabo Swinney have one thing in common. They are both the CEO style of coach, right? Where they have to hire a really good defensive coordinator. They have to hire a very good offensive coordinator. And Diesel, unfortunately, we have seen when you get those hires wrong, when the head coach gets those hires wrong, it can become a train wreck. Opposed to a coach like a Dan Lanning, Lane Kiffin, who calls their own plays, who has that established year in and year out offensive identity. I want to take you and the Tolos on this road with me, doing this thought experiment, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And I'm just wondering if Diesel athletic directors should change, or at least think about changing the way or the type of football coaches that they bring in to lead their program.
Well, it depends on exactly what you mean by that. You got me intrigued, okay?
Yep,
you want us to change everything, and that's what we do in America, right? You don't like what you got, change everything. You change your hair, you change the way you dress, you change your car, you can change your house,
beard color.
You can change your city, you can change your beard color. It's I've been shampooing with Dawn detergent to try to get this black black hair dye out. But you know what's going to happen, man. It's never coming out.
No.
It's going to be black forever.
I like it.
This is an interesting concept here. I'm going to need a little more information.
Well, there's risk involved when you hire a head coach, right?
Yep.
Any hire, when you and I hire someone, when our boss hires us or somebody else, there's always risk involved. There's a risk factor involved. And when it comes to college football in 2025, everybody wants to win yesterday, right? You want to win yesterday. You don't want to win now. You don't want to win tomorrow. You don't want to win next year. You want to win yesterday. You want to win a national championship yesterday. You look at the Diesel, the amount of money that's being spent on buyouts, it is ridiculous. So when an athletic director, a Jeremiah Donati or a Graham Neff or whoever it may be, hires a head coach, there's risk involved. However, if you hire a coach that's a CEO-style coach that then has to go and hire a really good defensive coordinator and a really good offensive coordinator, my thing that I believe we should start looking at is you add more risk. You add more risk because you have to not only get the head coach right, but then your head coach, Diesel, has to get the OC right and the DC right.
Okay.
And we're seeing that in this style of college football, with the money being thrown around in the transfer portal and the ability to go get players quickly and bring them onto your roster to fit what style you run, the Lane Kiffins and the Dan Lannings and the coaches that call their own plays, I feel like there's less risk involved with a proven play caller as the head coach, because they don't have to rely on another guy to make them successful and keep their job.
So you're saying you never want a defensive coordinator to be a head coach ever again?
No. No promotions.
I get where you're going. You want to simplify the organizational tree here and have your head coach also be your play caller. Are you saying you want that to be the case across the board? Head coaches equal OCs?
Well, if I were an AD, if you and I were an athletic director and we were having to piece this puzzle together, and again, Tolos, want to hear from you as well. Phone lines are open, 844-326-3663. Hub City Spartanburgers text line open at the same number. If we're having to piece this together and do like I said, win yesterday, if you put yourself in an athletic director's role, Diesel, when you get that hire right, that right hire, that correct hire, has to then get his defensive coordinator hire right and his offensive coordinator hire right in a world where a lot of these head coaches that you're playing against have less risk involved because their head coach, maybe their specialties defense. I'm not saying it's always the head coach is the OC. I'm just saying when your coach doesn't have a specialty, it seems as if in this new modern era, they're behind the 8 ball because coordinators are being promoted to head coaches. It's hard to get the coordinator hire right. Just ask Shane Beamer.
Yep.
I just feel like
on number 4.
That's my point. I feel like if I'm an AD, and Tolos, tell me if you disagree. If I'm an AD, I want to bring somebody in that has a specialty in calling defense or a specialty in calling offense. I just feel like there would be a lot less risk involved that way.
So you're done with the CEO type of head coach. Done with that type of guy.
I think so.
At the very least, it could save you some money, right? Because you're not having to pay an OC if your head coach is a former offensive coordinator and he's going to call the plays. If he's a defensive coordinator and he's going to call the defense, then you don't have to hire a defensive coordinator. It's an interesting concept. The problem, Cole, with that is talent comes from all over the place. It can be a special teams coordinator if you're Shane Beamer. It could be somebody who never played the game. And are we gonna apply a prerequisite that you have to have played the game to be a head coach? Eli Drinkwitz never played the game, and he's doing pretty well at Missouri.
Good. Yeah.
So, look, talent comes from all over the place. I would love to see a little more onus put on the general manager when it comes to hiring decisions, because college football is not structured the same way as the NFL. In the NFL, you got ownership, GM, head coach, everybody below them. But college GMs have a completely different job from NFL GMs. Yeah, it's essentially a personnel type of role, but they're having to re-recruit the same kids every single year. They're having to fundraise and to make sure that they have the money in the bank to pay all the players what they promised to pay them. Oh, and by the way, the GM is also heavily involved with hiring head coaches. GMs in college football are so new that I haven't heard of, and it's not to say that it hasn't happened, but so far I haven't heard of a high-profile GM coming into insert Power 4 school here. That guy feels like an institution. He's been there forever. He's going to be part of hiring the head coach. We haven't seen a whole lot of head coaching turnover and GMs staying put because a GM and an athletic director have kind of a hybrid role. AD kind of covers all sports, but a little bit of football. GM covers all one sport. Sometimes you have ADs in control of just football. So you might have 2 athletic directors or an associate athletic director in charge of football. It's a big old mess the way that college football has designed itself. We're kind of reverse engineering. College football is kind of reverse engineering the professional model instead of actually setting up an organizational structure that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the professional model as well. I want to get there in just a few minutes. Tolos, by the way, if you just tuned into the show, welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. I am asking the question if AD's athletic director, not Anthony Davis, if AD's out there should change the way in which they hire a modern football coach. Would love to hear from you. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line is open at 844-326-3663. The Upset Picks Challenge is also open as well. We need to see the text line start flooding in with upset picks. These will only get to this Shane Beamer stat that kind of ties into this segment conversation. So you, a lot of people out there like Shane Beamer. We believe he's a good coach. But we also know that much like Dabo Swinney and his hiring of Brent Venables, Tony Elliott, Chad Morris, hiring the right coordinator is a big piece of the puzzle. South Carolina, under Shane Beamer, has hired Marcus Satterfield, who previously called plays at UT Martin, Chattanooga, and Temple. Then they hired Dowell Loggins, who had never called a single play at the college level. And then they hired Mike Shula, who had last called plays at the college level, Diesel, 20 years ago.
Oh, my.
At Alabama. So, needless to say, Shane Beamer's hires of offensive coordinators and his tenure have been horrific. They haven't panned out. And I think Dow Loggins was probably the best one of the three. However, this is my point. This goes back to Jeremiah Donati. If he's listening, Jeremiah, if you're listening to the show, if you're up in G Vegas or up in the Berg, if you're listening to the show, I want you to know, the next head coach you hire, you need to hire someone with a specialty. There's less risk involved, and I just think that's the direction that AD should start to venture towards these.
I do wonder, Cole, and now we're waxing poetic about, how the game of football has changed. Football has gotten to the point where most schools are running roughly the same style of offense. Some implement more spread concepts, some do a little more heavy on the run game, some kind of feature a little option attack here and there, but ultimately they're all kind of running some version of the pro style because that's where kids out of high school are coming.
Excuse me.
But have you ever considered that when Georgia Tech was running the triple option, and on top of that, when Georgia Southern was running the triple option, they got to pick from a pool of candidates to be head coaches and offensive coordinators who were the absolute best at running the triple option because not a lot of teams did it. So you could be really picky, really choosy on who you hired. The absolute best at running the TO, that's who I'm going to go and get. As opposed to now, everybody wants the same candidates because they're all kind of doing the same things.
Yeah.
They're all running essentially a pro style of offense. Maybe we need to decentralize the type of offenses that we're running in college football, and we can allow these guys to specialize once more in some exotic and interesting offenses.
Tolo's out there. If your head coach, if there's a head coach hired at your program, would you rather the head coach be the CEO style head coach that Shane Beamer and Dabo Swinney are, or would you rather the head coach that your AD hires be someone with a specialty? And you brought up the NFL. We've seen it in the NFL as well. And you know what? You go ask Andy Reid. You go ask Sean McVay. You go ask Mike McCarthy, who, called his own plays. You go ask a lot of these guys, successful NFL organizations, and Diesel, you see it in the NFL too. I'm not saying that you can't. Brian Schottenheimer, and look what Dallas's offense has done this year. Their defense is trash, but you're seeing this in the NFL as well. And I think, though, even though it's a different sport, with the NFL and college football, I just think there's something to be said about your head coach being the play caller. Nick Saban was a defensive-minded guy as well.
I will tell you this, and this is where I think you're aiming at. Now that we have GMs who are doing the job of essentially personnel coordinator, coaches don't have to do that anymore. Therefore, they can be the ones to specialize in either offense or defense. Maybe we don't need a head coach who can hire an offensive specialist and a defensive specialist. We need to hire a head coach who is one of those specialists so that they let the GM handle all the financial stuff, the recruiting stuff. Let him handle the keeping the players happy kind of stuff. Coaches, wash your hands of that. You don't have to do it anymore. Think about it. That's why so many coaches who have had various levels of success are getting out of being head coaches, and they'd rather go be coordinators somewhere because they don't want to have to deal with all that stuff.
So let me ask you this. Let me read this off to you. When you talk about the CEO type head coach, I think it's a old model. You have this charismatic leader like a Dabo Swinney who oversees everything, basically what you just said, the offense, the defense, the recruiting, the staff management, everything. But I just believe, Diesel, where we're seeing this shift, where we're seeing this change is the complexity of this new era that we're in with NIL, portal, high stakes, booster pressure, you name it, media, compliance, you name it. I think some schools might benefit from venturing away from that CEO mentality, Clemson, and finding Diesel the on-field tactician.
I'm going to say something that you're not going to like.
Okay.
But I think there's a large nugget of truth in this. I think what you're asking for is more of a soccer-style head coach.
Ooh,
Soccer.
Soccer.
Think about it. Soccer teams hire and fire head coaches constantly throughout the season. Soccer coach puts together a game plan. He directs practice. And then once the game starts, all he really does is personnel decisions. Like sub this guy in for that guy.
Yeah.
And they hire and fire soccer coaches all the time. They hire and fire hockey coaches all the time because there's so much more onus on what the players on the court are doing, less on the decision-making that a coach has to do. And Madcraft, good question here, says, would the AD then need to hire the coordinators and the head coach have no input? Maybe the question is, should the GM be the one hiring the coordinators and the head coach have no input? We talked about this last week with Shane Beamer and his upcoming hire as OC.
Yeah.
Should Shane Beamer be the loudest voice in the room hiring an OC when he's gone 0 for 3 so far?
Well, it's a good question, and I want to be very clear. I'm not opposed, Diesel, to the head coach being the CEO. I just want the head coach to be more of an architect for the offense and the team, the style, the play calling. JB brought up something that I'm glad he did because I was going to get to this guy. JB says on the YouTube stream, the Spurrier Kiffin type coach. Kiffin calls his own plays. We see others in the college ranks. Josh Heupel, he was a co-offensive coordinator. Steve Sarkisian, offensive. We see it in the NFL. We talked about it. Steve Spurrier, I think, Diesel, in this modern era of college football, and I know many people may disagree, and Gamecock fans would love to hear from you. I think Steve Spurrier, in his era, in his game, was already, if not the best, one of the best at offensive play calling, being able to feel the game out, use instincts, and call as he goes, if you will. Meaning feel the game out and allow his play calling to go as the game goes, to go as the game flows. And I bring Steve Spurrier up because I believe in this new modern era, when you can go out and get your new shiny toys and just pick them, hand pick them, I think Steve Spurrier would be phenomenal in this new modern era of college football because, let's be honest, Steve Spurrier, Diesel, he was the architect of South Carolina's offense. And right now, 2025, in the past few years, the Gamecocks have had no architect offensively. Their offensive identity has been nowhere to be found. Even Dow Loggins, who was a good play caller, I think he was better than what Mike Shula did. There was still not that identity, even with a great quarterback in Lenora Sellers. I just want an architect. That's what I want.
And the hard part is not everybody can go out and hire some guy that had quality experience as a coordinator somewhere else first. Not everybody is going to go out and be able to attract, whether it's John Summerall at Tulane. He was a coordinator before he was the head coach. Not everybody can go get that guy. And trends come and go in sports, but the trend of wanting to hire an offensive coordinator, of course, is always going to be a popular one. People care most about offense, putting points on the board. Yeah. And then if you can hire a defensive coordinator that can give you just enough defense to win football games, that's the ultimate goal. It would be a fascinating study, Cole, and I just asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT, of course, doesn't know the answer to this question. What percentage of current college head coaches had prior experience as a coordinator?
Oh.
I'd bet that number is really high, as opposed to essentially other. You're either an OC, a DC, or other. I would have to bet the other category is fairly low. Yeah, maybe some wide receivers coaches are in there, some special teams coordinators like Shane Beamer, but the vast majority are probably OCs and DCs.
A lot of upset picks coming in. Texter from the 809 says high school recruiting was Dabo's strong suit before NIL. That advantage was literally bribed away from him with dollars thumping culture. That's it in a nutshell. Those days are gone. Good text there. Good text.
Really interesting topic to start the show. Let's keep it going. In the very next segment, we'll talk to Jordan Kay of the State newspaper in our weekly States segment, talking all things South Carolina Gamecocks. So Jordan next. South Carolina sitting in a much-needed bye week. A lot to figure out inside the building in Columbia. To talk about that and everything else affecting the South Carolina program, we bring on Jordan Kay of the State newspaper. Find him on Twitter at JordanK_23. Jordan, welcome to the show. As it's great to have you on every other week when we bring you on. Gamecock fans were upset that the word cat appeared on their field in the form of Blanchard Cat earlier in the season. Now they're upset that Blanchard Cat is also sponsoring Clemson. What a time to be alive, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, I can understand, people see the logo on South Carolina's field and kind of feel like, oh, that company is solely dedicated to Gamecock athletics. And then they go a couple months later and start supporting Clemson. But it's not that new. Founders Credit Union supports Clemson, and they have their name on the South Carolina's baseball stadium. So it's like, this isn't like a crazy precedent to be set, but yeah, just I think kind of in the world and that we're living in, it was just a little, it took me back for a second, I will say.
It's pretty funny. Jordan Cole here. Always appreciate you hopping on with us, man. Want to get into something that I started the show with to get your thoughts before we dive into South Carolina and Mike Shula and the rest of the season for the Gamecocks. We started the show with a suggestion from my part, maybe for athletic directors out there in this new modern era, or this new era of college football with NIL and the transfer portal. I suggested that maybe it was a better idea for athletic directors to hire head coaches that had some sort of specialty, that they could architect either the offense or defense, like a Lane Kiffin, like a Steve Sarkisian, like Steve Spurrier used to at South Carolina, just from the risk factor of when you have to make a head coaching hire, there's risk involved. And then the head coach has to hire a DC and an OC. And in Shane Beamer in South Carolina's case, we've seen 3 go wrong at OC for Shane Beamer. Do you think that that's off the wall for ADs to maybe change the way they hire coaches, just in terms of hiring someone that has an identity coming into the program rather than having to rely on them to hire someone with that identity?
So you're basically saying the head coach needs to be either the offensive or defensive play caller,
or
just have experience doing that.
No, I think either call the defense or call the offense, because I just think there's so much risk involved when you are the CEO type, Beamer or Dabo Sweeney, right, has to then go figure out how to make those hires, because in Beamer's case, he just hadn't been able to get these hires right at offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that necessarily, because I think, there's been a lot of stuff out there with the Steve Sarkisian stuff that really no head coaches win national championships calling their own plays. It's a very low precedent, especially these last couple of years, because these coaches are in charge of so much and need to be in that CEO role. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that part. I think what some coaches, I think, probably need to look more into, and I think COVID taught this to us a lot, is you have to have backup plans for everything. Remember COVID, where it was hey, our entire quarterback room basically just got COVID and can't play, so we're gonna have the kicker or the wide receiver take snaps there. And it's you kind of, I think, need that now when you're constructing your assistant coaching staff of okay, what's my backup plan? If something happens to someone, if this guy goes down, or, we have to fire this person, what's the backup plan? I think this year, South Carolina probably didn't have that, or have that natural person. Last year, it would have been easy. It would have been, hey, Dow Loggins is gone. We're going to put Mike Shula in because he has experience, calling plays and stuff. And this year, they didn't really have that person on the offensive staff. And so I wonder if that maybe was a part of the reason why Shane Beamer waited so long, because there wasn't a natural, next step. But I don't know that I technically agree that, the head coach needs to be in charge of doing that stuff.
Jordan, maybe a way to put that would be that offensive coordinators are getting these jobs because they're great at calling offenses, not necessarily at making hiring decisions. I wonder if you've got an offensive-minded head coach, should the offensive-minded head coach be the one hiring defensive coordinators or letting a GM AD make that role and have the two sides of the ball act more independently of one another so that you don't necessarily have to clean house when you decide, hey, we're getting rid of the coach, we're cleaning the house, getting rid of everyone. It's like, hey, the offense is pretty good, but the defense sucks. Let's just fire the DC, let the GM hire the next guy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a terrible idea. And it's all like so tough because I think you could probably go down that road and find examples where it works. And then you could go down, a separate road and say like, oh, that works too. And I think like the reality is like all these hires are just like gambles. And it is really tough. But I mean, I suppose that is perhaps a way to maybe mitigate some of the risk when it comes to hiring. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing across the country with some of these coaches. If you have a down year, it's basically like, well, they'll do the thing where they fire a coordinator and that gets them an extra year.
Jordan, we have a lot of, head coaches getting fired off the cuff. Just, they've had a good chunk of their careers. They go through a down spell for a year or two and boom, they're gone, right? Do you think maybe we should be living in a world where it's someone's job to champion for and cheerlead for keeping coaches around rather than all of the noise coming from the fan base being fire that guy, fire that guy, fire that guy? Maybe it should be the agents, right? The agents got them hired in the first place. Maybe it should be the agent's job to help try to keep these guys employed to slow down some of the constant circus of firing coaches.
That sounds awesome, but there's no way it would ever work. Like, it's a really smart idea, logical, and, that would completely fall on deaf ears to anyone at these SEC schools. So I don't know if, like Jimmy Sexton or whatever came out and said, actually Sam Pittman deserves another year. Like, I don't think the fan base would be like, you're right, Jimmy. Like, you're right. I want your Clyde to get another year.
Jordan
so,
K.
I mean,
oh, sorry, man.
It's theoretically a good idea, but yeah, I don't know that it would completely work out. I think kind of the one thing that maybe you can do is, like Florida State, the AD kind of comes out and says, hey, we're going to at least give him to the end of the year. And that can kind of quell some of the worry, at least for the fan base. Or, Scott Strickland at Florida last year kind of said early, like, hey, he's keeping the job. That I think kind of quells some of the speculation if they kind of an AD gets out in front of it and kind of just says, hey, this is not happening. Stop with the rumors.
We're joined by Jordan K. of the State newspaper on the Fan Upstate. He joins us every other Thursday at this time for the State's segment, talking Gamecocks. Tolos, if you have a question for Jordan related to South Carolina, text it in at the Hub City Spartanburgers text line at 844-326-3663. A lot of fans, Jordan, wanted Mike Shula fired weeks ago. Ultimately, it happened this past weekend. Why, in your mind, did Beamer wait a few more weeks to fire Mike Shula? In a lot of people's opinion, he should have been fired maybe after the LSU game a few weeks ago. And what do you know about the situation as to the timing of the firing of Mike Shula?
I don't know a ton about, the timing exactly, but I think it was just time. Why he didn't, I just don't think Shane Beamer likes firing people. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, he allows his coaches to kind of right the ship. And sometimes that's worked incredibly well. I think back right when I first got here 2 years ago, like a lot of fans wanted Clayton White fired.
Yeah.
And Shane Beamer kind of talked with them about, hey, you need to get this fixed. Sure enough, like next 4 weeks, like they were playing like one of the better defenses in the SEC, basically like shut down Clemson's offense. That parlays into last year where, South Carolina's defense was one of the best in the conference and they've, held up pretty well. So I think Shane Beamer, like kind of, I think about it like a reliever in baseball. It's sometimes the manager just kind of lets the guy, hey, let him get out of this jam and try not to pull him early. And I think that's kind of like Shane Beamer's thing of like, hey, like, let's let these guys work through it. I think after that LSU game, they probably had to do something, and all those offensive line penalties. I also kind of think that was perhaps a reason of like, hey, maybe it's, if we can just knock down some of these offensive line penalties, we were close to beating LSU. Let's see if that works. Obviously that didn't work. And then you're and Shane Beamer's sitting in on all these meetings. So he apparently liked the plan enough to be able to like green light some of these things. What was interesting about the Ole Miss game is I had never seen Shane Beamer that animated on a headset for so long. I mean, he is screaming into the headset, assumably at Mike Shula, and that was just kind of odd. It seemed like he had kind of come, to his wits' end with whatever Mike was calling or how the game was being dictated. So I think that was kind of just a thing where he had kind of, I don't know if it's lost complete confidence, but probably something like that.
Jordan, what are you hoping to see out of a Mike Furrey called offense? And, I understand it's going to be essentially coordinator by committee. How is this structure really going to work for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like that much different than what South Carolina was already doing. Sean Elliott was the run game coordinator. So basically he was kind of, leading the charge on designing the run plays and, getting that all orchestrated in practice and stuff. And then Mike Furrey was the pass game coordinator. So he was kind of heading up that. And then obviously Mike Shula as the offensive coordinator is in all those meetings, helping with the game planning and stuff, and then calling the plays on game day. So with the Mike Furrey offense, I would assume South Carolina tries to spread out a little bit more and kind of get its playmakers into some more space. And then I think his biggest job, though, is to just inject LaNorris Sellers with confidence. You watch that Ole Miss game, and like confidence is the only reason I can kind of explain what LaNorris Sellers did. He has the talent. He has, the accuracy to make all those throws that he was just missing on. And so you kind of look at it, it's like, hey, is this a guy who's just lacking confidence? And Mike Furrey, he does not lack confidence in himself and his team and everything. And so he's going to be a guy that I think just trying to lift LaNorris Sellers up, kind of remind him the guy he is. And I assume he's going to try and call things to just make life easier on LaNorris Sellers, whether that's, hey, rolling him out, splitting the field, making his kind of entire thing like one or two reads and then run. That I assume is going to kind of be his biggest job, is just sit with LaNorris, really get him ready and confident to go out and play Texas A&M.
Jordan, when you look in the offseason, I know there are still games to play this year, and Gamecock fans want to win, and rightfully so. But when you do look ahead, when you do peek ahead to the offseason, when Shane Beamer has to hire an offensive coordinator, we would assume that it's not going to be someone on staff. What do you know about not who he wants to hire, but the type of offensive coordinator that he should or maybe has hinted at hiring just because of his recent track record and not having the most success at the OC hire?
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to keep it pretty tight to the vest. All he was saying is, we want someone to elevate our program to blah, 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 whatever. So that was pretty vague. I don't know if he necessarily is just not 100% sure of what that is, or just kind of wants to cast a wide net and kind of, hey, interview everyone and then figure it out. But I mean, he just needs to hire someone that has experience as a successful play caller in college. Yeah. Like, we just haven't seen that. The Dowell Loggins, I actually think people are probably a little too hard on Dowell Loggins. Like, especially you look at last year, of like he built up, LaNorris Sellers. If you think of where LaNorris started the season and finished the season, I mean, some of that is coaching. So I think he probably gets a bad rap, but Shane Beamer didn't really like make many calls to people when Dowell Loggins left for App State, and basically just saying, hey, we want continuity, let's go get Mike Shula. But this go around, hey, start just going down the list. Start calling people who you think are running some of the best college offenses right now and over the past 3 or 4 years, and maybe go take some big swings at people who are in those jobs in the Big 12, in the Big 10, who are doing really good work that you can probably pay more and maybe dangle the carrot of, hey, like there's a chance LaNorris Sellers comes back. And if you take this job, you could be the guy coaching LaNorris Sellers. And I think that's going to be enticing to a lot of people. I think it would have been extra enticing last year if that was offered out there. But I think he's just got to find someone who has done it, who has really called offenses and who has been a successful college offensive coordinator.
Well, Jordan, if Shane wants to hitch his wagon to the James Madison train and keep hiring the guys that somehow they keep getting great coach after great coach after great coach, and we've seen a lot of Power 4 schools, they don't want to hire guys who have G5 experience. They'd rather hire somebody who has Power 4 coordinator experience. He can take away from James Madison as much as he wants. But, you mentioned him there. Shane says he believes in LaNorris Sellers. I mean, of course he does. LaNorris is a really, really talented quarterback. Should the next OC, should there be any consideration as to whether or not this hire would keep LaNorris Sellers in Columbia for one more year, given that at max he's got 1 year with LaNorris Sellers, or should they be hiring a coordinator who maybe fits Cutter Woods' style or whoever Shane envisions being the quarterback next year a little more?
I mean, if a new offensive coordinator comes in, like, they're going to want to work with LaNorris Sellers. Now you got to wonder, okay, could LaNorris Sellers go to the draft? Maybe. Could he enter the transfer portal? Maybe. Could he stay? Maybe. Like, a lot of this hinges on, what LaNorris Sellers wants to do. But these offensive coordinators, like, are very, very confident people. Like, they kind of see someone who's good with talent, with all the right stuff, and think, well, maybe the last guy just messed him up and I can fix him. Like, I think, any offensive coordinator is going to can kind of go back and watch LaNorris Sellers in 2024 and say, oh, like, I can work with that. Yeah. Also, like, this is going to be a massive year for, like, Shane Beamer and the entire South Carolina program. Like, they have to win now. I think they're going to probably do everything in their power to keep LaNorris Sellers, because the alternate option is you're putting basically your future, because you kind of have like a 1 game sample size or 1 year sample size a little bit. Like, you're putting a lot on Cutter Woods being incredible next year, or Landon Duckworth, the true freshman, being incredible. That's pretty risky. And so I think they're probably going to try and do everything to keep LaNorris Sellers. And I would imagine a new offensive coordinator would also want to do the same thing. Jordan, but, perhaps it's wrong. Perhaps they go in the direction that Oklahoma did, where, you get Ben Arbuckle from Washington State and John Mateer follows. I mean, that's worked very well for a number of teams. So Shane Beamer could look in that direction too.
Jordan, you're the best. As always, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jordan.
Jordan Kay, the State newspaper in the State segment. I will say real quick, Diesel, on your question to him about offensive coordinator, again, kind of going back to the very first segment, if I'm a coach now, if I'm a head coach, I don't want an offensive coordinator that can only work with LaNorris or Cutter Woods. I want a guy who says, Coach, doesn't matter who my quarterback is. I'll tailor my offense to what we have, and we'll go win. It just scares me. It scares me when you ask that question, because LaNorris Sellers isn't going to be there for Cutter Woods.
Right.
I want somebody who can adapt to what I have on the field year in and year out.
So now we're back to the conversation of wide-ranging skill set versus specialization into a specific tighter window.
Yeah.
Now it's back to that same old chestnut.
It is. It really is. It's an interesting conversation. Tolos, continue to get your Daily Wires in at 844-FAN phone. Also, Daily Wires next. Continuing the conversation, a lot of conversation happening on the stream between the Tolos. If you haven't done so before, check them out. You can put them on at your house, at work, whatever, and turn it on and leave it on while you're watching the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at The Fan Upstate 57. Tolos doing so as of right now. We do have to get to Daily Wires, but first, let's go to the phone lines where Jason in Columbia wants to weigh in on the South Carolina conversation we were having with Jordan Kay. Jason, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Cole? You know what? I talked to Diesel a couple weeks ago. I think you were out that day, and I'm actually a Clemson fan, so I told him at the time I was already shook, and now I'm just down bad. I mean, this season's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
But I was curious when it comes to Shane Beamer and the conversation you were having with Jordan. How much rope? I mean, if you're Jeremy Donati, if you're the AD there, I mean, this is going to be this dude's fourth offensive coordinator hire. And to me, I mean, he's pretty much bombed on the first three. Now, I know Loggins was mediocre his final year and parlayed that into the App State job, but the other two have just been abject failures. So if you're Donati and you're looking at all this money that teams are shelling out, and this is going to be such an insane coaching cycle, as you guys have alluded to, I mean, how involved? I know people look at the LSU situation and say, man, that's crazy for anybody else to be involved in the coaching hire. But I mean, if you're the AD looking over Shane Beamer's shoulder, is it reasonable to have a very close connection to whatever it is he's doing? I mean, because this guy's already had 3 strikes, and obviously this is his last one.
No, I think it's very reasonable, and appreciate the call, by the way, Jason. I think not only is it reasonable, Jason, it is the last straw. To emphasize how important this hire is, and appreciate the phone call, Jason in Columbia. Feel free to call back anytime at 844-FAN-PHONE. Diesel, this is, yes, Jeremiah Donati should be looking over the shoulder, and Shane Beamer should know that this is it. Like, you're not getting any more chances. If you don't get this right, you're next. You have to get this next hire right.
Yeah, I think if it depends on how much input Shane has. Does he have 100% of the input? Is it his final decision? Is Jeremiah going to be involved? It seems as if the track record would indicate that Jeremiah would want to be involved if he thinks he knows better how to hire offensive coordinators than Shane Beamer. Man, it kind of puts you in the moment where, or in the mindset that maybe by week 6 or 7 of next year, we might be talking about Shane Beamer being relieved of his duties. You got the offseason and 6 games to figure it out. And if it doesn't appear as if this offense is humming next year, then you're gone. And the hard part is, if you get a coordinator who's really, really good, the rest of the country will say, wow, he took South Carolina that has not had a strong elite play caller in years, and he took them to whatever heights. Yeah. Let's hire that guy away. Let's snatch him away.
And look, going back to what Jordan said, and we'll get to Daily Wires later in the show, we can push those back. Jordan Kay was right, and it goes back to what Jason just asked in Columbia. This next coordinator hire directly translates to your quarterback for next year, because you're not in a, hey, let's go hire a guy where we can build for the future mode. You're in a spot, Diesel, where the quarterback maybe has to come with the offensive coordinator if Lenora Sellers isn't going to stay. You're in a spot where not only – and it's a tough spot for Beamer, but he's put himself in this spot. You have to get not only the coordinator right, you've got 1 year. And I'm not saying you've got to go in the SEC next year, but you've got to hit this thing at the coordinator and the quarterback. You've got to get both right and be really good next year, or I think Beamer could be done.
Well, you picked the wrong guy that Lenoris doesn't see eye to eye with. He may transfer. He may go off to the NFL. He may go off to the NFL anyway, right? That's still a very high possibility.
It's tough.
And then what if Cutter Woods says, you know what, I don't like this instability before they even get to a hire? Cutter says, I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else where I know I'm going to have some stability, and I get to pick which offensive coordinator I want to go play for, rather than let me sit around, wait, maybe miss my window, maybe have to wait another year and ultimately decide I don't like this OC.
And you've got Landon Duckworth coming in, and he's going to want to play. And I'll say this, it's a tough spot, in just my opinion. I think it's a really tough spot for Beamer, and I'm not trying to call my shot or call for his job. I think, Diesel, it would be a miracle if this thing turns out and ends well for Beamer. I'm just saying there's a lot that has to happen right for Beamer to save his job.
In a way, it feels like somebody with shaky hands trying to thread a needle.
It's bad, man.
And it's really tough.
It's going to be tough.
When we
We'll
come
see.
back, I need you Tolos. I need at least 25 Tolos in the next segment to send me your upset picks. We'll get to that, some of the leans and which picks are the most popular right now. My wife already talking trash about my upset pick. And Cole, as we've had a lot of conversation lately about lawsuits and players being tapped for gambling illegally in college athletics, something that happened in the state of Iowa that I'm not so certain that this doesn't need to become the law of the land. We'll get to it next. Joe on the stream says, I sent my pick in. He's like the people in Starship Troopers. I'm doing my part.
You're the
Thank
man,
you,
Joe. You're the man.
Appreciate you. 844-326-3663 is our text line, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Let us know what game you're taking in this week's Upset Picks Challenge. Now, if you don't know, if you're new to the station, welcome in. This is a challenge that goes all season long, and your goal is to pick betting underdogs to win games outright, not betting against the spread, winning the game outright. So if you go on ESPN.com, find the list of all this weekend's games, find a game that you think the underdog will win. If it says like -2.5, that's a closer game than expected to be a -28.5 kind of game. For example, 28.5 would net you a lot of points, but 2.5 is far more likely to actually hit. You find a game that you like, and then you text it to us at 844-FAN-PHONE with your name, your game, and the spread. Corn Chip texting in. He's talking crap right now. He says, give me Georgia Southern plus 5.5 on Crap State. He says, that's coming in from Corn Chip. Now, Corn Chip is a toothless Georgia Southern alum. And, he's going to tune into the game tonight, and he's going to see what real attendance looks like on a Thursday night game. They don't have to bus in folks from the local homeless camp at App State Stadium the way they have to do down at Polson. So it's going to be a packed house. I'm not saying it's going to help us because App State is pretty crappy this year. We don't know exactly what kind of team we have. I don't even know who started quarterback tonight. So this is going to be an adventure for all of us.
But y'all fit in, right? Y'all fit in well in the Carolinas this year. Nobody's
any good. Nobody's any good. It's all
meh.
PC. It's all the blue hose, baby.
I guess it is. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and he's a Clemson fan, and I think we came to the conclusion, Diesel, that for the first time in a very long time, everybody around here is kind of ready for football season to be over with.
Well, we had to stop doing the Carolinas top 10 because it's just
just
a race to 7th place.
And we normally play highlights from the week before of Clemson and South Carolina, but there are no highlights. It's bad. I mean, there's no defensive player of the game. There's no offensive player of the game. There's no player of the game. It's
sad.
It's tough
when Duke is probably the best team in the Carolinas.
And to be quite frank, when is the last time this has been this bad for in-state football? I mean,
there was a time 3 years ago when it was a legitimately hard question to pick who was number one because there was so much good football.
I know.
At the time, South Carolina was good. Clemson was good. App State was good. NC State was, NC State. But, East Carolina was lighting it up early in the season.
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina was really good when Jamie Chadwell was still around. So
a ton of good teams.
It's very different. We're living in very different times. Jay Tez gets his in. He's taking Missouri plus 6.5 over Texas A&M.
It's going to change though, right? Right? Like, please tell me yes. Please tell me yes. It's going to change.
Only when Congress steps in and does something about all of this insanity.
I mean, I can't take this much longer. But I will say this. I was very pleased, even though our teams are bad. Yesterday, you and I were at Ingles, and I was very pleased with the amount of upset pick submissions we had. Mm-hmm. It was better than last week. We took a little dip, but guess what? Yesterday was good. Now, let's follow it up 2 days in a row and make it really, really good. Tolos, as Diesel said, we need your upset pick. If you're listening right now, that means we're talking to you. Yeah, you. Yes, you. We need your upset pick at 844-FAN-PHONE. Send it in, your name, game, and the spread. If you've never played or tried the challenge before, we would love to have you jump right in, get your feet wet for next year. And by the way, I try not to think about this. It kind of makes me sad. Where's Harold? Harold said that he was going to win the challenge this year.
Yeah.
And
I'm shocked that as big of an audience as we have, and we know it numbers in the millions, that none of them knows Harold personally and can be like, oh, Harold. Yeah, Harold. And where did he used to call us from? Like Greer, right?
I think it was somewhere in Greenville.
Harold in Greenville.
Yeah, I think so.
Does anybody know a smart, probably handsome older fella named Harold in Greenville who loves sports?
I'm going to walk over across the hall one day and just randomly walk in on Charlie James and ask him if he can do a wellness check for Harold.
Yeah.
Because Harold told us one time that he was listening to political radio, but he switched over to sports. And we just need and you walk down to the rock station and we'll go on every station that we have in the building and just start asking for Harold. I mean,
It's like calling for a lost dog.
I know.
Harold!
I know. That's what I'm saying. Is he on this station? Is he on this
Yeah.
station? I don't know where it all kidding aside, it makes me sad. It does make me sad because we don't know where he is. He told you and I last year that he was going to win the dadgum thing, and he actually got in late last year and did really good in the Upset Picks Challenge. So that just goes to show, Tolos, if you get in late, there's still a lot of football to be played. And you can pass Diesel and I. We're not any good at this.
That's not hard to do. I've got 2.5 points, Cole. You are not far ahead of me. You have, where are you on this list? I just saw you. I just had your name.
Look all to the right. Look to the right. Look to the right.
I'm trying to find it. I can't put my eyeballs on
far
Cole's name.
Right. Really far right.
Well, we'll find it. We'll find it in the break.
Am I off?
No, you're not. You're
the
not off
board?
the list. So really what we're trying to put out there, number one, I want 10 new Tolos this week, 10 new players. If you've never been in this challenge, you listen to the station, we want you to participate. And the fact is that there's still, like you said, a lot of football left to be played. We have the remaining weeks of the regular season, and then we have conference championship week, and then we have pre-Christmas bowls and post-Christmas bowls, and we have the first round of the college football playoff.
A lot of football.
So there's a lot of picks left to be made. And Cole, just looking at the median, meaning the number in the middle, not the average, but the median score is somewhere around 18 points. So somebody could get into this challenge now, hit on 2 or 3 picks worth 6-7 points, and be right there in the middle of the pack, like that.
Yeah.
So
it's some good games this week too.
It's going to be hard to get up into the top 25 because we got a lot of Tolos scoring a lot of points.
And you know what? I failed to get to this yesterday. I had this new strategy that I want to present and bring to the table, and I meant to bring this up yesterday on the show, but I forgot. Here's my new strategy. And I want to see, Diesel, if we can adopt this and how many Tolos out there are willing to join me in adopting this strategy going forward. Even starting right now, going into next year. Here's my new strategy. Here's what I've been thinking about lately with the Upset Picks Challenge. Nobody likes to lose, right? Losing's not fun. Sure. Everybody likes to win. Okay, well, here's the strategy here. Diesel, winning the Upset Picks Challenge outright is difficult. It requires luck. It requires you having a lot of luck, not taking anything away from our leaders. But my new strategy is, Diesel, what happens? We're human. When we lose, we quit doing things. And a lot of Tolos have quit the Upset Picks Challenge because they're losing. They don't like losing. They think, can't. Here's my new strategy, and I'm going to try this. Maybe the goal is not winning. Maybe the goal is morale. Maybe the goal is just hitting on your pick and knowing that, the reality is, Diesel, you're probably not going to win the Upset Picks Challenge. But guess what? If your goal is just to win every week, what are you going to do? You're going to take small spreads. You're going to take games with 2-3 points. And if you do that consistently, you're probably going to hit a lot of those spreads. And then your morale from winning, you might only have 15 points, but Tom in Somerville was in that camp.
Well, I try to tell everybody the goal should not be winning the whole thing. I mean, it's great if you're lucky, if you're on a streak and you win, awesome. The goal should be to finish inside the top 25.
Yeah.
It's just like college football. The goal is to finish inside the top 25. It doesn't help you at all. Set you up at all for next year. Yeah. Well, last year I was really good, so it's okay that I'm terrible this year. Just try to get inside the top 25. And right now, that would be 29 points. Right now, having 29 points would put you inside the top 25. And that means there's a bunch of guys in there. Kane, MD75, Scotty Mack, Tiger Pal Rachel, and a ton more that have a chance to jump into that top 25. That's where the meat of this thing is.
You know what this theory and strategy is called, don't you? You know what the title is?
Keep swinging?
No. It's the ACC.
God.
All you're doing, here's the deal. Here's mine, and I swear I'm going to, next week I'm starting this. You're going for these small spreads.
You tell yourself that, but then you get to week 10 and you say, oh, I need that 25-point spread to hit.
Listen, bear with me. You're going for 1-point spreads, 2-point spreads, 3-point spreads, 4-point spreads, maybe a 5-point spread, but not normally. So here's why. You stay in that 1 to 4. And if you do, like I said, just based on probability alone, you're going to hit. Then you're going to be cocky. You're going to be trash talking. Tom did it. Tom's a perfect example in Somerville. He did this to start the year. He hit like 3 or 4 in a row, but he didn't have many points at all. But the point being, everybody likes to win. And if you're continuing to win, you feel like you're good at the challenge, and then you're staying in the challenge. So let's do this.
Strategy.
Let's make it the ACC where you win. You don't get any credit for it, Diesel, because you're not doing anything impressive. You're just getting these 2.3. That it's the ACC upset pick strategy.
That's like saying, isn't it great that I scored with 3 4s instead of 110?
Numbers.
Numbers.
I'm just saying, I really think there's some truth to this strategy here. And I went 10.5 this week. I went with BYU.
Yeah.
But man, I don't like, I've told you this a million times. I hate the feeling of losing. I hate it. So I'm just going to change my focus and strategy from
little wins.
Right. Stack them. And if I only finish with 19 points, so be it. I only finish with 19 points. But I love the win. I love the feeling of winning. I hate the feeling of losing. So I'm joining the ACC.
Now you're starting to sound like these coaches who say, we don't need to win football games. We just need to stack good days on top of one another.
There you go. There you go.
Interesting. Cole, meant to get to this. I don't know if we'll have enough time to really break down in this thing. There's a situation going on in the state of Iowa, Cole, that all centers around all of these gambling scandals that we've seen pop up over the past couple of months. A lawsuit was raised by student athletes in the state of Iowa, not just at the University of Iowa, but around the state, alleging that data obtained by state investigators into their gambling activity, that lawsuit was thrown out. So they didn't like the fact that state investigators were able to go on their phones and get data about their gambling activities. So they sued and they lost. So this raises a really interesting question as the NCAA is playing with the idea, and they kind of backed off of that after Greg Sankey said, hey guys, we really shouldn't let this happen. But they are going down the pathway of letting college athletes gamble on professional sports.
Yeah.
And you know what that is. That is a slippery slope that takes you to a place where somebody says, well, I'm okay with gambling. Now I'm okay with using my inside knowledge to gamble to give myself a better chance to win. The question is, should a watchdog group, whoever that is, if it's the NCAA, if it's some other national committee, don't know, should they be allowed to watch student athletes' phones for gambling activity, right? To be able to monitor them directly.
Should who be able to watch them?
The NCAA.
Oh,
whoever's bringing these, infractions.
Well,
and it's always the NCAA says that some kids at University of New Hampshire were gambling on, were shaving points on their basketball team and involved in this kind of thing. So how much should a governing body be able to surveil the student athletes that they are trying to keep from gambling on college sports?
I wonder, because of personnel, would the NCAA have the personnel, the bandwidth to do that? Or would it instead look like, Diesel, every single college campus having a compliance officer where their job is to do that and then report those numbers to the NCAA?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does the NCAA have the capacity to monitor? Do I think it should be done? Hey, guess what? Here's the reality of it. You and I get paid to show up every day to work, and we get paid to do our job. And when our boss tells us not to do something, 99% of the time we try to go by those guidelines, most of the time. When they're getting paid, I know all of them are not getting paid, but some of them are. When you are there getting a scholarship or getting paid to play a sport.
Mhm.
And if I'm paying to come watch your sport, yeah, you should probably be you should probably be doing what you're asked to do. And if that means somebody watching your phone for gambling, I'm not opposed to it.
Maybe that's a condition of your NIL, contract to receive NIL money, is that I give you limited access to the known gambling websites on my phone to allow you to monitor for betting activity. Now, you just say, oh, they just get a burner phone and they just do this on another phone that's not monitored by the university.
That's what I do.
Simply, here's how this happened. 35 current and former college athletes at Iowa, Iowa State, and Ellsworth Community College filed a lawsuit last year in April. They allege that state criminal investigators from the Iowa Department of Public Safety's Division of Criminal Investigation used geolocation software through a company called GeoComply to track their phone and app-based sports wagering activity inside athletic facilities without a warrant. So they said that the basically the cops were monitoring their phones without permission. Now, some of them got tapped for gambling, and somehow one or two of them got tapped for identity theft allegations as well. And they weren't really looking for that, but that's what they found. And then some of these players lost NCAA eligibility as a result. But here's the thing. They were doing something illegal that they're not allowed to do, which is gambling on sports. They got caught doing it, and then they sued saying, hey, but you weren't supposed to be monitoring our phones anyway. Like, you were doing the crime.
Yeah.
That's like you're in the security business. That's like a thief saying, well, hey, I didn't give you permission to record me on a security camera as I was breaking into that warehouse to steal stuff.
That's true. That is a good, yeah.
I don't care. I don't care that you're upset that you got filmed. You were breaking into a warehouse stealing stuff.
That's right. You don't have the authority to have film on. You don't have the authority to film me. You don't have the authority to have me on. You do that. You walk into public or somebody's filming. They say, hey, you can't film me. You're right. That's a good illustration.
Not the law,
though. I do think it's spiraling. Maybe it's already spiraled out of control, and we've talked about it. It's a huge issue. Mm-hmm. At this point, the way I look at it is, there's no putting it back in the bottle. There's no putting it back in the wrapper. So, like, what kind of guidelines can we have in place that ensure that it's done properly and that there's no violations to be had? Because gambling's not going away. You're never, those mattresses you open that like explode. Yeah. That's never going back in that box. Like, we're never ever going back.
So here's what I find most interesting out of this. This is the ruling from the judge, U.S. District Judge Rebecca. This is great. Rebecca Goodgame Ebinger. She ruled that the DCI, the Iowa cops, were entitled to qualified immunity because at the time there was no law clearly establishing whether or not geolocation tracking violated any constitutional protections. Number two, the ruling also found that the state had immunity to issue subpoenas for the data. So now, to me, at least in Iowa, but I think this should apply to all 50 states, the states should have immunity, or the athletic departments within should have immunity to monitor student athletes' phones for illegal gambling activity.
Yeah, I think they should. Like, I can't. I'm sitting in my head trying to come up with an opinion on why they shouldn't. I think they should. I know that a lot of people, want their privacy, whatever. But like, if you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, like we've all been down a road where we're like, oh man, are you sorry, or are you sorry that you got caught?
To me, privacy doesn't matter if you are breaking the law.
That's right.
If you are committing the crime that they are trying to catch you committing and you got caught doing it, who gives a rip about your privacy?
That's true. Diesel, we're going around the NFL in the next segment. I've got 2 topics to get to. Tolos want to hear what your NFL topic should be. What should we be talking about in the NFL after we get to these 2 NFL topics going around the National Football League? One funny, one really, really sad. That's next. Well, we are going to go around the NFL, and it's not a fun one today, not a fun segment around the NFL. As usually we're talking about teams that are really good or teams that really suck, and we can laugh and make fun of them because they suck. And my team, Diesel, is usually one of the ones that suck, so it's fun to make fun and rag on teams.
But you started the season with so much optimism, Cole.
It's every year.
And went away really
Welcome
fast.
to the life as a Cowboys fan. However, today, speaking of the Cowboys, just horrible, horrible news. Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland dies in apparent suicide at the age of 24. This has been developing all day. And Diesel, if you know the name Marshawn Kneeland, well, you probably just heard it 3 days ago. Marshawn Kneeland, Monday Night Football, blocks a punt for a touchdown, scores for the Dallas Cowboys, and just a few days later dies in apparent suicide. And the defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys, a self-inflicted gunshot, apparently, allegedly, according to law authorities. The team put out a statement on Thursday, but did not mention the cause of death until later today when the police reports came out. But the statement said, "It is with extreme sadness that the Dallas Cowboys share that Marshawn Kneeland tragically passed away this morning. Marshawn was a beloved teammate and a member of our organization. Our thoughts and prayers regarding Marshawn are with his girlfriend, Catalina, and his family." Kneeland was 24. Diesel. Catalina also talked about supposedly today, and again, this is all allegedly, him having some severe mental health issues. So just horrible to hear this news. It does put life into perspective of, you can be scoring touchdowns on Monday Night Football, but man, you really don't know what people are going through. And that puts this news today puts that into perspective.
Yeah, it's you can only have conjecture here. Was he battling some CTE issues? Was he battling something else pre-existing? Was it exacerbated by some of the hits he might have taken playing football over the past, 10, 15 years of his life? There's just no way to know at this point, and it's really sad to see.
According to Frisco Police, the department responded to assist the Texas Department of Public Safety with locating a vehicle that evaded troopers during a pursuit that entered the city at approximately 10:39 p.m. Central Time Wednesday. That would have been around midnight here, right before midnight last night here on the East Coast. Dallas police troopers found Kneeland's vehicle crashed on southbound Dallas Parkway near Warren Parkway. Or according to the report, Kneeland fled the scene on foot, and officers searched the area with help of canine and drone units. And approximately 3 hours later, Kneeland was found with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. During the course of the search, officers received information that Kneeland did express suicidal ideations, Diesel, and according to the report, his agent, Jonathan Perzili, described his death as a pain I could hardly put into words. So a lot of sadness around this, especially with his family and what they're having to go through. And we can make it about football and as much as we all love football because it takes our mind off of a lot of things going on in the world and we love the game. I think it's a good reminder today that we all need, not just today, but every single day, that regardless of who it is that you're talking to or what kind of power that person's in or how rich they may be, that you never know what somebody's going through mentally, and mental illness is a real thing. And unfortunately, Diesel, mental illness also causes so many other things. It's just like a hose. Once you turn the hose on, it shoots out from so many different angles, and mental illness we've seen over the past few years. It causes people to do crazy things. And unfortunately, man, the life of somebody who was 24 years old, Marshawn Kneeland, gone way too soon. And I think it's just a good reminder that we as humans, regardless of, where we are in our life, can all remember that people are just that, people. And we need to empathize and understand that regardless of somebody's look on their face, Diesel, and they may be the happiest person, they could be going through something.
Yeah, I hope that, if there were recognizable symptoms, I do hope that his girlfriend and that his family tried to get him help. You can't make somebody go through mental health evaluations. You can't make people seek out help and get what they need. But you would at least hope that they tried. and or at least recognize that something was wrong. Something was amiss.
It's weird with this mental health stuff. I would say, you know how like growing up you had to go get your shots as a kid and you had to do all these different things, right? I think we're to the point, and I know people may push back on this and disagree. I think we're to the point where in school with kids growing up, as they go through first grade, fourth grade, sixth grade, and high school, I think there should be in school, because that's the best way to reach so many kids. And even in college, Diesel, when kids go to college, I think there needs to be evaluations of people, whether it be classes or whatever it looks like, where that's literally evaluated. And the students, just like you had to go get your shots when you were younger and you had to go get your physical, you have to go through these, mental health evaluations just to see. And I know some people may say, well, Cole, that's the stupidest thing in the world, but it's like going through a metal detector. Wouldn't you rather slow down and have to know or have to wait to get through the line? But Diesel, once you're on the inside, you know that nobody brought a gun into the arena because you went through the metal detector. I think it's the same thing here.
I get what you're saying, that it would be tremendously costly to have enough personnel to be able to do that. I mean, you have guidance counselors.
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Staff at schools, and they are incredibly overworked people, and they can't suss out every single issue, and some people are really good at hiding it. I don't know if everything is so readily apparent, and then at the same time, it's like you're forcing someone to go through something that they don't want to do. So
that's true.
It's a difficult question to answer, and and then, like I said, it all comes down to money. Can we actually fund something like that?
Sometimes, I think it's worth it. If it takes money, let's do it, just to make sure people's mental health is okay. And for any Tolos out there that may be, battling similar situations in their head with mental health or depression or whatever it may be, we're here for you. We would love to talk to you. We're not guidance counselors. Diesel and I are way too ugly and fat to be guidance counselors, but we
don't
can
have to be Brad Pitt to be a guidance counselor. What are you doing over here?
They're usually nice, good-looking people, though, aren't they? I mean, you ever seen the schools I went to? I mean, I don't know where you went to school. Mine. But the point being, if you are ever going through something out there, you don't need to go through it alone. You need to go through it with people who can help you walk through every single day that situation that you're going through.
Speaking of battling, and this is in a different context, so good to see Bubba Brooks out yesterday at Ingles. Bubba is dealing with his own health issues, and he walks in with his chin up, got a smile on his face. And we had a chance to sit and chat with Bubba for a solid, a couple of minutes in between different segments. We can't sit there and talk for 15 minutes straight because we're on the air, but awesome to see Bubba out and about doing his thing and fighting this good fight. So awesome to see you. Of course, we're praying for you, Bubba, that you just continue to get better.
That's right. And yes, I would echo that. It was good to see him because you know what? A lot of us Diesel out there, if we're in a similar situation, we probably don't want to go in public and have people ask, well, what's going on with him? Why does he look so down? But you're right. Shout out to Bubba Brooks. We're pulling for you, as you said, Diesel. We want you to get through this thing. A buddy of mine who lives in Colombia is also going through chemotherapy. He's a really good friend of mine. It sucks. I talk to him almost every day, and Brandon's his name, and it's awful. Chemo is just awful, awful, awful. But you know what? Those who fight it, I mean, they're a special kind of people. They really are, because it does a lot to your body. It does a lot to you mentally. So yes, Bubba Brooks. I know everybody's not, people of faith, but I am praying for you, and I hope you do get better, man. Pulling for you in this one. So good to see you yesterday. As we'll be at Ingles again in 2 weeks. Diesel, around the NFL on a different note. I don't do this often, but I every now and then, I think I change my mind on things. I think it's good to have an open mind in life, right? Whatever it is, have an open mind, be able to change your mind on something. You and I, about a year ago, had a debate on the show, and it was brought to the news today because Matt LaFleur, the Packers coach, was talking about it. And it's a tush push. So I want to tell you why I've changed my mind. But first, Green Bay Packers coach Matt LaFleur would not say whether his opinion of the tush push has changed since the team's attempt to get the play banned. We remember that, right? This offseason, the Packers tried to get it banned. So with the Eagles coming to Lambeau Field this Monday night, LaFleur knew it would be a hot topic this week, Diesel, in the media availability. It was one he had little interest, though, in discussing. LaFleur said today, I'm not going to get into it, speaking about, the tush push and the Eagles coming to town. It is what it is. The NFL made a decision, and we have to find a way to try to stop the play, and it's a tough play to stop. So Mark Murphy, former Packers president who retired in July, he was the one that led this charge about banning the tush push. And if you remember correctly on this show, Diesel, I was very adamant about a year ago that the tush push should be legal. However, after listening to a lot of people, and I encourage everybody to have an open mind, I am here today to announce that I am siding with you if you're still on that side of the fence. I think I was wrong, and I think it is time that we really evaluate it this offseason with people who matter in the room, and I have switched sides. I now believe the tush push should, in fact, be banned.
So why did you change your mind?
Well, I'll tell you why. I heard a lot of football people talk. Football people, right? And I love football. I watch football. I study it. I sit with, people, coaches who know it way better than I do, and I try to learn. I love learning the game of football, Diesel. I spend a lot of time during the week with my job and what I do for high school watching high school football, film, tendencies, offenses, defenses. I love it. I love learning about the game. And the more you hear football people talk about it, people who played the game for a long, long time, Hall of Famers, you hear their opinion on why it should be banned. And I think I just came around to the realization that, you know what? I'm not saying just because they played they're right, but maybe they know more than I do. It's not a football play. And when you look at football plays, that's one thing, but this tush push is not a football play.
So I want it banned because it violates a rule that is incongruent, and it's not looked at equally. And I'll give you a reason why I'm saying this.
Okay.
In the NFL, it's illegal to pull, grasp, or lift a runner to assist their forward progress. But you can push them. Tell me why. Why is it legal to push, but illegal to pull? Why is it illegal? Why is it legal to push, but illegal to lift? Because I have to go back and look at every single one of these tush pushes that have occurred. But has it ever happened where the player who's getting pushed is being pushed up, i.e. the pusher is lower than the pushee, which you could say that is lifting the player up and over a line. I just don't like I don't like the selective enforcement of a rule. Why can you push, but you can't pull, grasp, or lift? And how many times, Cole, have we seen a play where a running back gets stood up and then all the linemen crowd around the guy and it just kind of moves the pile either direction?
Sure.
Has it ever happened where one of the offensive players is on the forward side of the ball where he would be pulling that player a little bit? Or has it ever happened where a defensive lineman got through the line, so now he's behind the running back and he's trying to pull the running back towards the line of scrimmage? It happens. They just don't enforce it. So you can't selectively enforce an assistance of a player and say you can push, but you can't pull.
So here's why I think a lot of people are hung up on it. If you go watch Diesel, 99% of the tush push, especially from a low angle view, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see the quarterback and the backfield move slightly before the snap, especially the push men who are crouching and leaning forward. So the linemen fire off immediately. When the ball snapped, the linemen fire off immediately. Mm-hmm. The ball's movement is sometimes very, very subtle. I mean, just a very small movement, not much movement, right? However, when you watch it, it looks like a false start. It looks like, especially if you go, I can't remember who brought this up, but they slowed it down. And if you slow the play down, especially from a low angle, it looks like everyone jumps early. Now, technically, and I looked it up, according to the NFL rulebook, Rule 7, Section 4, Article 2, I didn't make that up, a false start occurs, and again, this kind of goes back to how it's worded, just like you and I discussed a year ago with what's assisting a runner, right? According to the NFL rulebook, Diesel, a false start occurs when any offensive player moves in such a way that simulates the start of the play before the ball is snapped. That's the rule on what a false start is. So the quarterback initiates the movement as the ball is snapped, but not before. So when human eyes watch the play, it very much, to me, looks like a false start. And if it looks like a false start, well, it's like a false start to me. I don't care what the NFL rulebook says. It's a false start, and I think it's time people who know football get in the ear of Roger Goodell and those who are in the decision-making process and say, guys, this is just not a football play.
Buckeye Mike texts in at 844-FAN-PHONE and says, the defense can't push anyone. That's why I don't like it. If the defense can push defensive players, then I'm good with it. Eric Hines, no surprise here. Eric Hines is an unabashed Eagles fan. He ends every text with "Fly, Eagles, fly." He says, I think you all just want it banned because your team sucks and can't stop it or can't run the play successfully. Anybody can run the play successfully. Anybody can figure it out. It's not like there's something special in Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offensive line to get it right. And Eric knows. Eric's texting this in with a grin on his face. I don't even have to see your face, Eric. I can tell you're like, hey, I know this should be an illegal play, but my team uses it to score and I like it. So kiss my rear.
Yeah. It's like the reality is, if it works for you and your team,
you love it.
Of course you're going to love it. I mean, no, we're not banning this play. And what else is a reality? What else is a reality is, Diesel, if it doesn't affect your team negatively, you probably don't care.
Yeah.
Right? When it starts to affect your team.
But if you got to play the Eagles twice a year, now it really starts to get annoying.
Yep. Trust me. Yes, you're right. So I say all that to say I've flipped sides. I am now team ban the tush push.
Wow.
There you have it.
Call Roger Goodell. Stop the presses.
What do they call him?
Cole
What's
has
his number again?
Switched sides.
So 864?
Yeah, it's 800.
Oh, 800.
Pay me. I don't know. It's not enough numbers. When we come back, Cole, we've been talking a lot about the coaching carousel in college football. Who is going to take over some of the biggest roles? Who's even available to take over some of the biggest roles as new contracts are being doled out? But there is one name, Cole, that I think is out there that should get a shot that nobody is going to see coming. I'll tell you who that is next. Well, as the college football coaching carousel spins up faster and faster, Cole, here's one program that is not going to be firing their head coach. This is just breaking from Pete Thamel. Wisconsin head football coach Luke Fickell will be back to coach the Badgers next year. Chris McIntosh, their athletic director, said basically that they're going to increase their funding of the university. So no changes coming to Nebraska. I was hoping that we're going to see one of these messages pop up about Jeremiah Donati and Shane Beamer one day.
So what you're saying there is the AD said, no, I'm not firing the coach. I'm going to give my coach more support.
Exactly.
That's the kind of AD I like.
Exactly.
We talked about that yesterday. I'm a fan of that guy.
Do you remember when Wisconsin was a perennial powerhouse?
No.
It happened, man. 2019, they won 10 games. They won 10-plus games 4 years in a row from 2014 to 2017, 3 years in a row from 2009 to 2011.
But they never, competed for anything.
I mean, they were really good. That's my point. You know, look at you. Now you're trophy watching. You're saying, if you didn't win a trophy,
that's right,
then you must have sucked.
Well, you weren't relevant.
They won from 2009 through 2019. They won 10 or more games 3, 7, 8 times. 8 out of 10 years, they won 10 or more games. Right. That sounds like Dabo Swinney.
I was going to say the second time today I've called you. Yep. Literally, you stole the words out of my mouth. The second time today I'm calling you Dabo.
But is he wrong?
I don't want to hear it, Dabo.
They did this across multiple coaches.
Dabo, what have you done for me lately?
Dabo. So one name that coach that Cole has not popped up on anyone's radars for coaching jobs, which I think should, is a name that you might have actually forgotten about. Do you remember a gentleman that coached at Northwestern by the name of Pat Fitzgerald? Everybody liked him. Everybody thought he was perfect for Northwestern. Again, it's Northwestern, so the standards aren't super high.
Yeah.
But in 17 years, he was 110 and 101.
I do remember the name.
Not bad at Northwestern. Well, he, I guess, is going to be throwing his name back into the hat. He's 50 years old, Cole. And what makes Pat Fitzgerald worthy of talking about here, Pat Fitzgerald just got a fat paycheck from Northwestern University because he sued, claiming basically improper firing. What's the term? Wrongful termination.
Yeah.
He sued for wrongful termination, and it's taken a while, but he won.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Is he?
College Football Hall of Fame.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. But if you think back on,
but he won
that situation, he was fired essentially for having hazing and sexual abuse inside of his own program. Not him personally, but essentially allowing it. And he was terminated for that. And he has been vindicated. Those were his words, that he feels fortunate and vindicated by the decision. He talked about this on the College Game Day podcast. And he's only 50 years old, which shocks me. I would have thought Pat Fitzgerald was probably pushing 60. We talked to Bill Bender yesterday. He said the magic number is around 65. Once you get north of that, you're not going to be seen as a legitimate hire.
Can he call plays better than Mike Shula? Because if so, what's his number? I'll call him up. Can old Fitzmagic bring that magic to Columbus? No, I'm kidding. You go get a proven. I'm kidding. It is good though. All kidding aside, like if he was innocent, sometimes it's good to see, hey, this guy actually was innocent.
I could see Pat as a Virginia Tech candidate. I could see Pat as if Clark Lee gets hired away, and a lot of people think that he might be a prime candidate for the Vanderbilt job. Or if you think he needs to spend some time somewhere else, send him back down to a G5 team. Have him coach a G5 team up and do something special there. And then that guy will be a Power 4 head coach again within 3 years.
You never know. You just never know. It could happen, Diesel. I want to ask a question, much like I did in the very first segment, but this question's a little bit different. I like questions. As one Tolo the other day said, how do you say question?
I got a question for you.
I have a question. We all the time give best case scenario and worst case scenario, right? We've done it for South Carolina. We've done it for you name it. We've done it for Clemson and Dabo Swinney with their current situation. How do they get out of it? Best case, worst case scenario. But today we're not doing best case, worst case for Clemson and Dabo Swinney. The question that we're asking is, which of those two will come first at Clemson? Will it be the best case scenario in which Dabo gets the ship turned around? Or will it be the worst case in which Dabo's fired? Again, that's why it's called, for you yelling at the radio, that's worst case scenario. Not best and worst case of our opinion, but which do you see coming first? The rebirth or the end? I want to get your thoughts next. Well, it's the old debate. Diesel, which comes first? The old debate.
Chicken?
Yep.
Chicken.
Yep. Or the
Chicken.
Or the egg.
Eggs.
That's right. That's the question that I'm asking in this very segment. Not the chicken, not the egg, but which will come first? Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, want to hear from you as well at 844-326-3663. We always give best case, worst case. We've done it a million times. Diesel, we already know what it is. So there's no point in us spending 20 minutes in a segment talking about the best case and worst case for Clemson and Dabo Swinney. It's actually better to get the opinions of you and the Tolos, and I'll give you mine as well, when it comes to not what is worst case scenario, not what is best case scenario, but which, if you put your prediction hat on for a minute, which of the two will happen first, the rebirth or the end? That is the question I am asking, that we are asking on this Thursday edition of Wire to Wire. Welcome in. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. We're going to the phone lines in just a second. But first, Tolos, if you just tuned in, we want to hear from you when it comes to this very question. You can text the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. You can leave your comment in the stream, or you can watch the show on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or you can do like Matt and just pick up the phone and call the show. That's what Matt did. That's what you should do as well. Also, continue to get your upset picks in at 844-326-3663. We need 20 upset picks just in this very segment. So, while you're mulling on that, while you're thinking about that, let's go to Matt from Ohio, who always provides a very unique perspective on Clemson. Matt, I want to hear your thoughts. I also want to hear you answer the question in your mind from an outsider perspective, from the outside looking in. Which will happen first in your mind? Best case scenario for Clemson or worst case scenario for the Tigers?
Well, I'm going to say this, guys. I wanted to give you guys some major props on the Wisconsin comments. Back in the day when Barry Alvarez coached Wisconsin, nobody in the Big Ten wanted to play those guys. They could run the ball on everybody. You think about some of the backs they had, Ron Dane and some of those other guys, and they were just a tough out. So Wisconsin was at one time a very proud program. I'm sure they still are. Same thing with Pat Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald is a guy who did more with less because of just the admissions constraints at Northwestern. And I mean, if you look at their stadium and their facilities, and I've been there, it's better. But, back when Fitzgerald started there, it was nothing like it was today. Now, in talking about Clemson, I'm going to tell Clemson fans, and I've told you guys this a couple of times, that I think you're going to be fine. And I think the ship will be righted if Dabo Swinney does two things. And the first thing you guys have heard me talk about forever is the transfer portal. I think the second thing, though, that needs talked about is assistant coaches. Tom Allen, I think his record at Indiana was something like 33-50 or something like that. He was a guy who took a program from terrible to decent. But I think there's a huge difference between a coach who goes from terrible to decent and a coach who goes from good to great and from great to the pinnacle. And when you're Clemson, the expectation is the pinnacle. I'm thinking that Dabo Swinney is going to adapt. I hope he does. I respect him as a coach. I think he does things the right way. I think he's loyal. But I'm going to tell you guys that, if you look at Ohio State and some of the coordinators they've had, there were a lot of question marks. Ryan Day was taking heat over Chip Kelly. How's that going to work? This year up there, he got a little guff over Matt Patricia. Both those have seemingly been home runs. So I think Clemson's going to be fine if Dabo can adapt to the portal and he can figure out the assistant coaches. Because, if you look at what's historically separated the SEC from a lot of other conferences, they're paying their head coaches big money, but they're paying the assistant coaches a ton. Mm-hmm. And the game is just so complex, and it's so, winning is difficult in college football today, and there is parity. Those assistants make a bigger difference today than they ever have. So I feel like if Clemson can get a hold of the portal and they can get their arms wrapped around the portal and they can get their arms wrapped around these assistants, and you see that, South Carolina made a move already, I think they're going to get the ship righted pretty quick.
It's a good comment. So with that being said, Matt, you would say which comes first? You would say the rebirth for Dabo and Clemson would come first.
I would say so. I mean, I don't even know that I would say it's a rebirth. I mean, he's having a bad year, but I think he still gets good talent. It's just I think he needs to add some pieces, and I think he needs to shore up the assistant coaches. And I think, I would be very surprised if Clemson fans see these results next year.
Matt, when I was thinking about Wisconsin, I was thinking about the James White era when he was the running back there at Wisconsin. Nobody wanted to see that guy coming at him from a defensive line perspective because he was an absolute monster. And they had a stretch a couple of years in a row where they had really, really good running backs. And Wisconsin, they just gotten on a run of finding elite guys. But you raised an interesting question there about Tom Allen. Yeah, he was at Indiana. He took them from trash to respectable, at least by Indiana standards. And then he had one really great year at Penn State as the DC. And I'm not trying to cast any stones or throw any stones at Tom Allen. He is a well-respected coach. Did he just so happen to get really lucky and have a phenomenal year at Penn State? And that all of a sudden makes him, galvanizes him as some kind of defensive genius? Or is he just struggling more at Clemson this year for some odd reason?
I think it's difficult to say, but yeah. I mean, Penn State has a similar talent as I believe as Clemson, as Ohio State. You're getting top level talent when you're in those top 10 programs. I mean, you're getting NFL players.
Sure.
I didn't think Tom Allen was a great DC at Penn State, to be real honest. I mean, he would beat the teams. He was like James Franklin. He would beat teams that he was favored to beat. And in high profile games against top 10 teams, he was very pedestrian, if below average.
Hey, Matt, always appreciate the call, man. Call anytime.
Appreciate you, Matt.
I'll say this. I want to touch on something he said. And by the way, Tolos, if you just tuned in, just get off work, get it home. Number one, appreciate you listening to the show. Number two, want to hear from you, whether you're a Clemson fan, South Carolina fan, or an App State fan. Diesel's rocking his App State shirt today. My favorite version of the logo, by the way. I like the yellow shirt you have better. Is it the which one?
It's a golf polo shirt. It's a Nike Dry Fit with this Mountaineer.
I like that. That's my favorite. I like that yellow. Want to touch on something Matt brought up when it comes to Dabo. When we're asking the question, the rebirth or the end of the story, not worst case, best case, but which one do we actually see happening? Like if we actually take a hard look and say, okay, we've talked about what if, but what actually does happen? Let's just be blunt. Let's be honest about it. I think what Matt brought up with the assistant coaches has been the downfall. And Dabo Swinney said something the other day about trusting his instincts. And Diesel, we've talked about this a million times, but I think this current staff is where Dabo's gone wrong. And Matt just said Clemson has talent. I believe they have talent as well. I think the rebirth can come very quickly. I believe the rebirth of Dabo Swinney and Clemson can come very, very quickly if he gets rid of these guys on staff. I don't think this staff is getting the most out of the guys that are there. And we talked about this a couple of days ago. I think it all starts with the recruiting and Tyler Grisham and what Mickey Kahn's doing in the secondary. And I don't have the list in front of me, Diesel, who Dabo's going to fire when the season's over. But I think those two guys are going to be on the list. One of them I think will be. I don't know about the other. But I think if you take this staff, flip it on its head, bring in guys. Oh, and by the way, you brought in Garrett Riley, and you said, hey, Garrett Riley, you come in with my quarterback. No, you can't bring any of your assistants. Garrett Riley, you come in as the offensive coordinator, and you work with my Clemson buddies. Think about that. Mm-hmm. He said, hey, Garrett, you come in. Here's my quarterback. Here's my Clemson buddies now go win a championship. So while we have been very hard on Garrett Riley didn't get to bring anybody in. And we've talked about this. I believe Garrett Riley does call his style of. I think Garrett Riley calls what he wants to call. Mm-hmm. I don't buy into the fake narrative of he's calling a Clemson offense. I just think a large part of it has to do with when you bring in Tom Allen, you bring in Garrett Riley, Diesel, you're also saying look at these Clemson buddies of mine. These are your top assistants that you have to work with. That's not fair to Tom Allen and Garrett Riley.
And there's been plenty of accusations about this, that Dabo has tried to implement a Clemson way, and then Garrett Riley has to operate inside of that Clemson way. Maybe he has the illusion of autonomy as the OC at Clemson, but he really has to kind of do what Dabo wants him to do. And that's kind of true of any employer, right? I mean, no OC, nobody in America can do whatever they want unless you are the CEO of the company. That's kind of how it works. When you're the tippy top dog, you can do whatever you want, assuming it's not illegal. But he brings up an interesting point there about salaries and about how much different programs are paying around the country. Clemson is highly competitive when it comes to the salaries that Garrett Riley and Tom Allen are making. Garrett's making around $1.75 million this year. Tom Allen's making 1.9 this year.
Yeah.
You compare that to the highest paid coordinator. Now, granted, this is the highest paid coordinator. I don't know what the average coordinator salary is in the SEC, but the highest paid coordinator in the SEC is Pete Golding at Ole Miss. He's making $2.6 million. I do wonder, Cole, if Dabo, who's making a lot of money, wouldn't say, you know what, why don't you shave $1 million off of my salary for the OC, shave $1 million off of my salary for the DC, and go out and hire the absolute best. Go out and hire Pete Golding. You know what? We'll give him 3. Ole Miss is giving him 2.6. We'll give him 3. Take it out of my salary.
Here's the reality of it. I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but if you go hire Pete Golding, you can go hire Urban Meyer. But if you're not allowing them to bring in who they want to bring in, I think that's a big, big, big part of this Clemson conversation that we're having with these lower-level assistant coaches who are Clemson guys, Dabo's guys who have been there. You talk about safety, defensive line, recruiting. I can name all 4 or 5 right now who are just good old Clemson boys that Dabo's hired. You can bring in the best coordinators in the world, but Diesel, it is clown know what to bring a guy in and then not let that guy bring his assistants in. That's not how this works. And I hope and pray that that's the biggest lesson Dabo Swinney has learned.
Yeah, but then again, you're Dabo Swinney and you are hiring your DC, and then you're hitching the success in the eyes of the college football world based on the guy that Tom Allen wants to bring in that you don't even know.
That's right. You're right. But guess what?
So you're trusting that Tom knows what he's doing when it comes to hiring his assistants.
But your way didn't work. Your way didn't work. We gave you your chance. Your way didn't work, Dabo. So that's my point. You're right. It's risk involved, but gosh, Dabo's way didn't work. So, like, hey, when something don't work, Diesel, what do? You try something different.
Well, when it comes to mitigating risk, and we'll see what happens in this offseason if Dabo Swinney leans more into the transfer portal, because we saw Will Helt play really well. He's played really well all season.
Unbelievable.
And help me, I'm blanking on his name, the wide receiver.
Tristan Smith.
They named him captain this week. You don't name somebody captain if you don't believe in them, right? There are plenty of players that get away from Clemson who eventually enter the transfer portal from whatever school they ultimately chose. Why is Dabo not using the transfer portal as a second chance to re-recruit the guys that he believed in the first place?
Yeah.
If there's an elite running back and you're a little short, he ended up going to Georgia Tech, and he says after a year, okay, I don't like Georgia Tech, I'm going to go somewhere else. Why are you not going all in to get a guy that you wanted to bring in the first place?
Well, maybe, just maybe, Dabo Swinney seeing Will Helt and Tristan Smith play like they played this year will help open his eyes to say, this thing's not so bad after all. Let's go to the phone lines, 844-326-3663. Madcraft on the phone, weighing in on the topic of conversation. What's up, Madcraft?
Yo, I don't just agree with this, man. I agree so much that I think that we should implement this idea in math, right? With this idea that I think the athletic director, right? Let me give you an example here. This is bringing you back to your very first segment of the show, just FYI.
Look at you, Tolo.
I think Yeah, Hey, so let's take an example. Let's take Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma athletic director is going in. He needs a new football coach. And what did we say for like a decade, 2 decades, maybe even 3 about Oklahoma football? They were really good offensively, but what were they really bad at?
Defense.
Defense.
That was the entire Big 12.
It's the entire Big 12, but especially, Oklahoma and Texas at the time, right? So they were poor on defense. So as an athletic director, you go, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hire my head coach that has a specialty in what I need that I think would fix our football program, hence defense. So you go and you hire Brent Venables. But here's what you should do, right? After that point, Brent Venables is your head coach, right? But he has no say-so in how you pitch. So you're going to go get your coordinators. You hire a defensive coordinator, of course, but then you also hire an offensive coordinator that you, as the athletic director, believes can then come in and complement the head coach specialty that you have hired. So what you're doing is that offensive coordinator, he can bring his assistants because he's not hired by the head coach. He's hired by the athletic director.
Shouldn't matter, though.
Right. So
you should be able to bring assistants.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. They can, though, Cole. They can bring their assistants, and it wouldn't be told any which way or another. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Other than the head coach. The head coach, his only job is to be there to run the program, right? And his specialty, which is why we hired him.
Yeah. The reality is it sounds like a bunch of excuses.
But Madcraft, isn't that what we're essentially setting up GMs in college football to do? We're setting up GMs to run the program. Why don't we just hire coaches whose only job it is and specialty it is to coach? We don't need to hire a coach and turn him into a CEO. We've already hired a CEO in the form of a college program GM. Let the coaches coach.
Right. But at that point in time, but then I would make an argument. Well, what is Shane Beamer?
Special teams coordinator. And so
okay.
Cole said something.
See what I'm saying?
Cole said something really interesting earlier, and I didn't get a chance to rebut him. He said that we know that Shane Beamer is a really good coach. Do we know that Shane Beamer is a really good coach?
I do.
I think we know that Shane Beamer is a really good person.
No.
I don't think anybody is doubting that Shane Beamer is a really good person. I think so far there's been a lot of ups and downs. So to me, the jury's still out on how good of a coach he is, because I look at more than just his record. I look at who he hires. That's part of being a coach. You got to be able to hire the right guys. I also look at how he holds himself and composes himself on the sidelines, which is iffy. We saw it. We saw him lose his mind on Mike Shula last week. We saw him boot a cooler so hard that it broke his foot. We've seen him sulk and pout and do all these things. I mean, all of those things are wrapped up in being a coach.
And you know what else is wrapped up in being a coach? Putting in the amount of years that he's put in coaching, leading his way up to South Carolina, recruiting the guys that he's recruited. And, oh, by the way, go back to the Gamecocks when they were in their prime. Go look at the guys that Shane Beamer brought to South Carolina when he was an assistant. So you can't just tell me just because he's done bad at South Carolina, he's not a good coach because I think he's a good person. No, Shane Beamer has a track record. Go back and look at what the guy's done. I think it's a little disrespectful. Go back and look at what he's done. He is a really good football coach. He has a proven track record.
Hold on. Now, time out. Now, there's nothing disrespectful about this. I did not put any kind of shame on Shane Beamer.
No, he's talking about me.
Diesel.
He's talking about me. He's talking about me.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But you also said to start the show
guys,
that you want coaches that have offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator experience. And Shane Beamer had none of that.
That's what I'm saying.
He had experience as a special teams coordinator. And what has South Carolina been really good at under Shane Beamer? Special teams.
Hey, look, I'm gonna get over here, but I want to finish with this real quick. Oh, how funny is it? Me, look at me in the modern world arguing for more Jerry Joneses.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Madcraft, appreciate you, man.
Thanks for the call.
Let's go to Tom in Somerville. What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys. So I got a question before I get to Cole's question. Why is Dabo making $11 million a year? the last couple years have been nothing but a downright disgrace
Tom,
to the great.
let me ask you a really simple question, Tom. Have you ever allowed your employer to lower your salary?
No.
There you go. That's your answer right there. That's your answer right there. You would not stay at a job if your employer said, hey, Tom, we really like you. We like the work that you used to do, but you're not doing what you used to. We're going to take 10% of your salary back. You wouldn't stay at that job anymore. That's why.
Well, Brent Venables took a pay cut, and, it helped them out. And, I just, as much as I hate Clemson, Clemson fans, some of them are nice people, but at the end of the day, they're still Clemson fans, okay? And they're never gonna be able to relive that magic that they had from 2016 to 2018 and into 2019. That feeling they had is gone as long as Dabo's.
What's your name?
So, in all honesty, with Dabo, Cole, I caught the end of it, but I don't see.
Uh-oh. Hang on, Tom. That was our accident. We accidentally cut you off, Tom. Say that again.
I was saying I caught the end of what Cole said earlier, but this is never going to get turned back around in the direction in which Clemson fans expect and want. But, they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I'm sitting here begging Dabo not to fix it. Don't fix anything. Keep making yourself look stupid, because I have thoroughly enjoyed that this year. Watching Clemson get beat every week to powerhouses like Duke and Syracuse, I have absolutely loved it. So for that, I do want to tell Dabo thank you. But those wins, those championships, whatever you want to call it, it's never going to happen again. So, Clemson, you can go find your next coach, but 2016, 2018, those are just outliers, and you'll never experience that again.
Tom, could I propose a trade and get your thoughts on whether or not you think this trade would work?
Okay.
I think Liberty needs to trade Jamie Chadwell to Clemson, because Jamie Chadwell will do anything to win, and Clemson needs to trade Dabo Swinney to Liberty. That way he can go over there and preach his own gospel.
As long as Hugh Freeze is his offensive coordinator. Because then, you've got two, God-fearing men right there at Liberty, and they're ready to win some football games. Sign me up.
Thanks, Tom.
Sign me up. Go Gamecocks.
All right, let's keep it going. Kevin wants to weigh in on in this very segment. Then we're going to run off to a break. What's up, Kevin?
Well, I couldn't help but I was listening to that guy that was said the athletic director should hire the head coach that's got his philosophy and then go hire an offensive coordinator. There's literally no head coach in the United States or athletic director that's going to do that. I've been seeing that mess on the X app. That Donati needs to be the one that hires the offensive coordinator. Why? Why should he be? What is his experience that makes him say, well, that's what I want? We either have to allow a head coach to hire their person, or you fire that head coach.
Yeah.
If you don't trust them enough to hire the coordinators that they think is going to fulfill their vision on the field, then you don't have them as your head coach.
And ultimately, that's what they're getting paid to do.
That's exactly what they're getting paid to do. The athletic director has to deal with literally every sport down there. He has to meet with boosters for every sport. He's got all his administrative work. You don't have time to even focus on what the football team should be doing outside of producing wins on the football field.
Well, Kevin, you said what would make Jeremiah Donati qualified to hire an offensive coordinator? Nothing, because his background is in athletic fundraising. He worked with the Arizona Wildcat Club, the Washington State Cougar Athletic Fund, and the Cal Poly University Mustang Club. He is a fundraiser. That is his job. You know what they also do when it's time to hire a new coach? They hire a search firm. His job is to hire the people who know how to hire the right person rather than him doing it himself. But to this point, Shane Beamer has not been what anyone would call wildly successful when it comes to hiring offensive coordinators. So there is some logic there to say that maybe Shane isn't the most qualified person to hire an OC.
Well, then he's got to go. Then you fire him. That's what. If that's the case, you fire him.
I'm not arguing that point.
Yeah.
If he's not competent enough to hire to get a damn hire,
then
right
you
this time,
you fire
then
the
fire
guy.
him,
That's
and he
right.
doesn't work there anymore.
Yep, I agree with that.
That's all I'm saying. That's all. Literally nobody does that.
Yeah,
that would be like the radio, and I don't know the radio industry. In my business, that would be like my boss hiring someone and sending them to my office and saying, "Hey, I hired you this person."
But see,
Yeah.
Ray Tanner, Jeremiah Donati's predecessor, Ray Tanner was a coach. So at least, he theoretically should have known how to hire the right baseball coach. That didn't go super well
100%.
either. So,
Exactly right.
he at least comes from an athletic background and should have a skill at hiring good coaches, but it didn't necessarily turn out very well that way either.
No, it didn't, and you don't always do it right. And honestly, I'm a huge Gamecock fan, Cole. You know that. I watch every game, even if we're getting beat to death.
Yeah.
And I loved Shane Beamer at first, but I mean, he's not done anything.
Well, for me, you've got to get this hire right, and if you don't, he's gone. That's where I am.
I mean, if he worked, I think I called him before and mentioned it. If he worked literally at any other SEC school right now, except maybe Kentucky, he would have already been fired.
Yeah.
Shane
The
would have been
expectations,
fired.
yeah.
I don't know if you heard yesterday, if you were listening, Kevin, but we had Bill Bender on, and he's a national college football guest. He said hiring a head coach is always kind of a crapshoot. You never really know. It's always a gamble.
But my whole thing is, Kevin, yes, it's a gamble. I agree with that. But my whole thing is has Beamer dropped the ball and fell short? Yes, I think he has. But how important have we seen how important our assistant coaches? Ask Dabo Sweeney. Ask Lane Kiffin right now how important it is to have good coordinators. And that ultimately falls back on him because he's got a great DC. He hadn't hired a great OC, so it does fall back on him. But this era of college football, you've got to have good coordinators if you're not the one calling the shots.
And it's 100% his responsibility to get that hire right. And if not, and you don't trust him as an athletic director, then you fire him.
Yeah.
He has no business being there. These wild takes, I know they're great for radio and they're great for the X-apps and the clickbaits, but man, some of them just blow my dang mind.
I'm with you.
Literally nobody would do that. That guy would not put himself in Shane Beamer's shoes and allow the AD to hire his assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Whoever the guy was that called, there's no way that he would.
Madcraft, by the way. Kevin, thanks for the call, man,
Thanks,
as
Kevin.
always. Texter says a lot of times a head coach fires a coordinator to lengthen the lifespan of the head coach and a little longer. Once things don't change, the head coach is gone. That's very true. Lefty Tiger going at Tom Diesel. Lefty Tiger says, we will keep the memories, Tom, and feelings and trophies from 16 to 18, and you enjoy your empty trophy cases and hopes. Well, y'all do have that ACC championship from 69 to remember.
Ooh.
Lefty Tiger going at Tom in Somerville. I love it, man.
Well,
I love it.
Our next guest does not have empty trophy cases. He is loaded up with awards because he is simply amazing. Jordan Kay of the State Newspaper talking South Carolina Gamecocks with us next.
it took me back for a second, I will say.
It's pretty funny. Jordan Cole here. Always appreciate you hopping on with us, man. Want to get into something that I started the show with to get your thoughts before we dive into South Carolina and Mike Shula and the rest of the season for the Gamecocks. We started the show with a suggestion from my part, maybe for athletic directors out there in this new modern era, or this new era of college football with NIL and the transfer portal. I suggested that maybe it was a better idea for athletic directors to hire head coaches that had some sort of specialty, that they could architect either the offense or defense, like a Lane Kiffin, like a Steve Sarkisian, like Steve Spurrier used to at South Carolina, just from the risk factor of when you have to make a head coaching hire, there's risk involved. And then the head coach has to hire a DC and an OC. And in Shane Beamer in South Carolina's case, we've seen 3 go wrong at OC for Shane Beamer. Do you think that that's off the wall for ADs to maybe change the way they hire coaches, just in terms of hiring someone that has an identity coming into the program rather than having to rely on them to hire someone with that identity?
So you're basically saying like the head coach needs to be either like the offensive or defensive play caller,
or
just have experience doing that.
No, I think either call the defense or call the offense, because I just think there's so much risk involved when you are the CEO type, Beamer or Dabo Sweeney, right, has to then go figure out how to make those hires, because in Beamer's case, he just hadn't been able to get these hires right at offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that necessarily, because I think, there's been a lot of stuff out there with the Steve Sarkisian stuff that really, like, no head coaches win national championships calling their own plays. Like, it's a very low precedent, especially these last couple of years, because these coaches are in charge of so much and need to be in that CEO role. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that part. I think what some coaches, I think, probably need to look more into, and I think like COVID taught this to us a lot, is like you have to have like backup plans for everything. Like, remember like COVID, where it was like, hey, our entire quarterback room basically just got COVID and can't play, so like we're gonna have the kicker or the wide receiver take snaps there. And it's like you kind of, I think, need that now when you're constructing your assistant coaching staff of like, okay, like, what's my backup plan? Like, if something happens to someone, if this guy goes down, or, we have to fire this person, like, what's the backup plan? I think this year, like, South Carolina probably didn't have that, or have that natural person. Last year, it would have been easy. It would have been, hey, Dow Loggins is gone. We're going to put Mike Shula in because he has experience, calling plays and stuff. And this year, they didn't really have that person on the offensive staff. And so I wonder if that maybe was a part of the reason why Shane Beamer waited so long, because there wasn't a natural, next step. But I don't know that I technically agree that, the head coach needs to be in charge of doing that stuff.
Jordan, maybe a way to put that would be that offensive coordinators are getting these jobs because they're great at calling offenses, not necessarily at making hiring decisions. I wonder if you've got an offensive-minded head coach, should the offensive-minded head coach be the one hiring defensive coordinators, or letting a GM AD make that role and have the two sides of the ball act more independently of one another, so that you don't necessarily have to clean house when you decide, hey, we're getting rid of the coach, we're cleaning the house, getting rid of everyone. It's like, hey, the offense is pretty good, but the defense sucks. Let's just fire the DC, let the GM hire the next guy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a terrible idea. And it's all like so tough, because I think you could probably go down that road and find examples where it works. And then you could go down, a separate road and say like, oh, that works too. And I think like the reality is like all these hires are just like gambles. And it is really tough. But I mean, I suppose that is perhaps a way to maybe mitigate some of the risk when it comes to hiring. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing across the country with some of these coaches. If you have a down year, it's basically like, well, they'll do the thing where they fire a coordinator and that gets them an extra year.
Jordan, we have a lot of, head coaches getting fired off the cuff. Just, they've had a good chunk of their careers. They go through a down spell for a year or two and boom, they're gone, right? Do you think maybe we should be living in a world where it's someone's job to champion for and cheerlead for keeping coaches around rather than all of the noise coming from the fan base being fire that guy, fire that guy, fire that guy? Maybe it should be the agents, right? The agents got them hired in the first place. Maybe it should be the agent's job to help try to keep these guys employed to slow down some of the constant circus of firing coaches.
That sounds awesome, but there's no way it would ever work. Like, it's a really smart idea, logical, and, that would completely fall on deaf ears to anyone at these SEC schools. So I don't know if, like Jimmy Sexton or whatever came out and said, actually Sam Pittman deserves another year. Like, I don't think the fan base would be like, you're right, Jimmy. Like, you're right. I want your client to get another year.
Jordan
so,
K.
I mean,
sorry, man.
It's theoretically a good idea, but yeah, I don't know that it would completely work out. I think kind of the one thing that maybe you can do is, like Florida State, the AD kind of comes out and says, hey, we're going to at least give him to the end of the year. And that can kind of quell some of the worry, at least for the fan base. Or, Scott Strickland at Florida last year kind of said early, like, hey, he's keeping the job. That I think kind of quells some of the speculation if they kind of, an AD gets out in front of it and kind of just says, hey, this is not happening. Stop with the rumors.
We're joined by Jordan Kay of the State newspaper on the Fan Upstate. He joins us every other Thursday at this time for the State's segment, talking Gamecocks. Tolos, if you have a question for Jordan related to South Carolina, text it in at the Hub City Spartanburgers text line at 844-326-3663. A lot of fans, Jordan, wanted Mike Shula fired weeks ago. Ultimately, it happened this past weekend. Why, in your mind, did Beamer wait a few more weeks to fire Mike Shula? In a lot of people's opinion, he should have been fired maybe after the LSU game a few weeks ago. And what do you know about the situation as to the timing of the firing of Mike Shula?
I don't know a ton about, the timing exactly, but I think it was just time. Why he didn't, I just don't think Shane Beamer likes firing people. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, he allows his coaches to kind of right the ship. And sometimes that's worked incredibly well. I think back right when I first got here 2 years ago, like a lot of fans wanted Clayton White fired.
Yeah.
And Shane Beamer kind of talked with them about, hey, you need to get this fixed. Sure enough, like next 4 weeks, like they were playing like one of the better defenses in the SEC, basically like shut down Clemson's offense. That parlays into last year where, South Carolina's defense was one of the best in the conference and they've, held up pretty well. So I think Shane Beamer, like kind of, I think about it like a reliever in baseball. It's sometimes the manager just kind of lets the guy, hey, let him get out of this jam. And try not to pull him early. And I think that's kind of like Shane Beamer's thing of like, hey, like, let's let these guys work through it. I think after that LSU game, they probably had to do something, and all those offensive line penalties. I also kind of think that was perhaps a reason of like, hey, maybe it's, if we can just knock down some of these offensive line penalties, we were close to beating LSU. Let's see if that works. Obviously that didn't work. And then you're and Shane Beamer's sitting in on all these meetings. So he apparently liked the plan enough to be able to like green light some of these things. What was interesting about the Ole Miss game is I had never seen Shane Beamer that animated on a headset for so long. I mean, he is screaming into the headset, assumably at Mike Shula. And that was just kind of odd. It seemed like he had kind of come to his wit's end with whatever Mike was calling or how the game was being dictated. So I think that was kind of just a thing where he had kind of, I don't know if it's lost complete confidence, but probably something like that.
Jordan, what are you hoping to see out of a Mike Furry called offense? And, I understand it's going to be essentially coordinator by committee. How is this structure really going to work for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like that much different than what South Carolina was already doing. Sean Elliott was the run game coordinator. So basically he was kind of, leading the charge on designing the run plays and, getting that all orchestrated in practice and stuff. And then Mike Furry was the pass game coordinator. So he was kind of heading up that. And then obviously Mike Shula as the offensive coordinator is in all those meetings, helping with the game planning and stuff, and then calling the plays on game day. So with the Mike Furrey offense, I would assume South Carolina tries to spread out a little bit more and kind of get its playmakers into some more space. And then I think his biggest job, though, is to just inject LaNorris Sellers with confidence. You watch that Ole Miss game, and like, confidence is the only reason I can kind of explain what LaNorris Sellers did. He has the talent. He has, the accuracy to make all those throws that he was just missing on. And so you kind of look at it, it's like, hey, is this a guy who's just lacking confidence? And Mike Furrey, he does not lack confidence in himself and his team and everything. And so he's going to be a guy that I think just trying to lift LaNorris Sellers up, kind of remind him the guy he is. And I assume he's going to try and call things to just make life easier on LaNorris Sellers, whether that's, hey, rolling him out, splitting the field, making his kind of entire thing like one or two reads and then run. That, I assume, is going to kind of be his biggest job, is just sit with LaNorris, really get him ready and confident to go out and play Texas A&M.
We've still got Clay Hendricks coming up on the show in the very next hour. So if you're a Furman Paladin fan, I know, tough loss, but it's all right. Going to rebound this week, right? Going to rebound. We have Clay Hendricks coming up at 6:22 as we talk to Coach Hendricks every Thursday in the final hour of the show. So stay tuned for that. But Diesel, want to give a big shout out here to this week's, the Week 10 Fan Upstate Player of the Week. So typically, you and I have the Fan Upstate Player of the Week on the radio. Each week, we've interviewed them, 9 or 10 times this year, and they're all exceptional athletes. And there were a ton of exceptional athletes this past Friday. However, there were none more exceptional than BJ Filson. BJ is who I named the Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 10, and BJ Filson is a running back at Fountain Inn High School. And if you know BJ, it's got a lot of traction on social media, on Twitter and Facebook, because the video is truly sensational. Sometimes, Diesel, people in life just deserve to be recognized, and I truly believe that BJ Filson, who is special needs, deserves to be recognized today for getting in the game on Friday and scoring on a play that Coach Brett Nichols let him name, title the play, called Battle Cry. And not only did BJ Filson get in the game, there's a video of it. I've retweeted it at the Cole Bryson. Diesel, BJ Filson, our Fan Upstate Player of the Week, scored a touchdown. So he is our Fan Upstate Player of the Week.
I am attempting to find this video.
I just retweeted it
right now,
seconds ago.
Just retweeted.
Yep,
Let me
Trey
hit the
Stewart.
refresh button.
Trey Stewart of Greer News Sports posted it. It was on Go Fountain Inn Sports, and Trey talked about it. He said it's a touching story. BJ Filson has special needs. He's a beloved member of Fountain Inn's football team. The kids love him. And Diesel, again, Friday night, the team designed and called a play for Filson to try to rush for a touchdown. And they did not allow Filson to be denied. Just freaking awesome.
Well,
and then
you can see he gets his handoff here on the right hip of the quarterback, and he runs right into pressure.
Yeah.
Defensive lineman got through the line and basically stood him up, but he kept pushing.
He did.
That's a heck of a play.
And how about his quarterback, Sam Holliday, who's a fantastic quarterback at Fountain Inn, dual threat guy, number 2 ranked dual threat quarterback in South Carolina. He's a really good quarterback. That was Sam Holliday you saw behind him, pushing him in. So just a really touching video. I know BJ's mom and others I've seen on Facebook have just, and Twitter and social media, have just been elated because this kid's getting a lot of attention and publicity, rightfully so. I saw the picture of him and Coach Brett Nichols, and when I let Coach Nichols know, Diesel, that he was the Player of the Week, Coach Nichols told BJ, and BJ was super excited. So just shout out to BJ, shout out to Coach Nichols and that team. Just so you know how it works, Diesel, every week we get stats from most schools, and then I, on Sundays, will text most of the coaches who won and say, hey, Coach, you got any Player of the Week candidates? Well, all of them send back 2 or 3 guys every week, and they do a great job. Coach Brett Nichols Sunday sent back, and he said, hey, BJ Filson, he's who I'd like to nominate for Player of the Week. And just congratulations to BJ. If you hear this, buddy, we're proud of you. You did awesome on that touchdown, and congratulations to BJ and Fountain Inn. Really, really cool to see. So
yeah, wait a minute. I'm watching this video, and I've watched it over and over again. Did you notice the 14-second mark? The referee throws a penalty flag.
I believe it was was it after the celebration?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up.
Come on, Zebra.
I'm glad you brought that up. Kudos to the opposing coach, and I believe it was Southside, for declining that penalty.
Yeah.
Because he did.
Yeah.
It would be enforced on the kickoff. But again, I had a coach, one of their assistant coaches this morning text me about it. We were talking about it. And let me pull up the text. He said it was an awesome moment for an awesome young man, and kudos to Southside for declining the personal foul flags. Really cool situation. So, Diesel, to your point, they threw a flag for the penalty, right? Officials, I don't know what they knew, what they didn't know, but they throw the flag. And then how about Southside? Kudos to them saying, no, we're declining the penalty. Just a awesome moment for BJ Filson and Fountain Inn.
Great moment. Congratulations to him, to his team, to his family. Well-deserved.
Yeah,
well-deserved. When we come back, Cole, let's do a good old-fashioned audio blitz and get ourselves set up to talk to Clay Hendricks, the head coach of the Furman Paladins, at 6:20. But next, we're going to hear from Dave Canales, from Caleb Williams, a couple clips from Jackson Dart, and Ben Roethlisberger a little salty on something Aaron Rodgers is getting in his tenure there in Pittsburgh that he didn't get. We'll play that next. Well, you've heard us run our mouths now for 3 hours today. It's time to hear from the people themselves who are out there living it, playing it, doing it, being it, and then we'll just react a little bit. How about that? Let's start
novel idea
with the college game. Cole, big game coming up. It's the number one most picked game in this week's Upset Picks Challenge, which, by the way, 844-326-3663. Send us your upset picks for week number 11 games. This is BYU head coach Kalani Sitake previewing the big-time matchup that the Cougars have on the road at Texas Tech.
Talking about Joey McGuire and what he's been able to establish in his coaching career and what he's been able to do culturally with his team. You know, when you look at the roster, they're talented, but they've also bought into his system, bought into the culture that he's established there. They have a great foundation in place. And so looking at the talent that they have and the way that they're able to complement everything in all three phases, it's a really cool thing to see, and it's great to watch on film. In a lot of ways, that's what we want to be too. So, you know, we're looking forward to being at our best and trying to be, you know, quite like what they're being able to do. They're very disruptive on defense, and then offensively, they're very efficient, and special teams, they could be, you know, a momentum changer for you. So all those things being said, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it. And, you know, we have to have a great week of prep. But more than anything, I just want these guys to embrace the opportunity to get to go into Lubbock, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on us, and we get to go in and perform and maybe, you know, open some eyes to what people are what they can know about BYU football.
That might be the first time any head coach has ever said, Texas Tech is what we want to be like.
You realize you can't do this, right? Do you realize what you did to me?
What did I do?
You're going to say that name, the coach's name, and the entire time, my ADHD brain, you know, I didn't get to hear what he said. I'm sitting there thinking, well, what's that guy? Was that the coolest name in college football?
Kalani Sitake.
I think it might be the coolest name in college football.
Is it cooler than Ken Niumatalolo?
Who?
What was his name?
Ken Palm?
Ken Niumatalolo, who coached at Navy for a while. He was.
I don't like that one as much. No, so
Kalani Sitake is a great name.
What I'm telling you is I didn't hear a word he said. The only thing I was thinking of, that guy's got a great name.
Well, he talks about the opportunity of playing on the road in Lubbock. Wow. Everybody's really excited about playing in Lubbock. And the fact that a guy that's a head coach at BYU, and you know as well as I do, BYU is never good enough to be relevant on a national scale.
Yeah.
In the last 15 years or so, I know they won a national title like in the 40s or whatever, but I mean, they're not out there competing against the Alabamas and the Ohio States for national titles, but BYU is an elite model of consistency. So, and a BYU head coach laying it on extra thick, saying, hey, we want to be just like Texas Tech. That's rich.
Let me ask you this. This is really important. Do you know where you said Sitake is the way you pronounce his last name?
Sitake.
Do you know where Mr. Sitake is from?
I would bet he's from Hawaii.
It is incorrect.
Or the
he is from
Pacific Islands?
Tonga. Tonga.
Where is that?
Okay, it is. I'm glad you asked. It's a Polynesian, not the sauce at Chick-fil-A, a kingdom of more than 170 South Pacific islands, many uninhabited, most lined in white beaches and coral reefs and covered with tropical rainforest. The main island, Tongabatutu, that's exactly how you pronounce it.
Tongabatutu?
Yes. Is protected by lagoons and limestone cliffs. Not the university, but cliffs like rock.
I like Tongalabuti.
It's these. I can't pronounce half of these words, but that's where he's from. Tonga. Now, if you click Tonga on the maps, it's one of the millions of islands. You've heard of Fiji, like the water?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, there are a lot of islands. I know this become a history lesson. Tonga is like east of Fiji,
due east of Australia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You saying it's near Fiji? Like anybody listening to the show knows where Fiji is.
Yeah, like way west of east of Australia. Way east. Like, yeah, you said it.
It's out there
in the Pacific Ocean, basically between Australia and Africa. That's where it is, and that's amazing. And then, I mean, all kidding aside, is it not cool that a guy born on an island out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean can come over here to America and become the head football coach at BYU? I mean, that is insane. That I love that. I love stories like that.
Hey, credit. I mean, I know BYU does a lot when it comes to recruiting and their religious outreach going to the Pacific Islands down there. So they get a lot of players to come back and play at BYU because of that. So I'm not surprised.
I want to go.
Yeah.
They just showed pictures of the island. It doesn't looks pretty good.
I bet it is.
Sorry,
bet it is.
There's your geography lesson for the day.
We've talked a lot about head coaching changes and who should stay, who should go. This is Nicole Auerbach and Roddy Jones discussing why some athletic directors may be hitting the pause button on their plans to fire head coaches.
As we get to each Monday, I just keep thinking, God, there's got to be so many athletic directors out there being like, I will do anything to avoid this coaching carousel. I mean, think about the coaches who've already got extensions. Let's go through them. Kurt Cignetti, Matt Rule, Brett Lashley. So they're all off the board.
Yep. Which are like the biggest ones.
Right.
Other than Lane.
So, yeah, Lane Kiffin, again, cannot coach at 5 different schools this year.
Why? Why can't he?
4 SEC openings. Quarter of the league right now is open, looking for coaches.
Crazy.
So the point
Who was
is,
that, by the way?
Nicole Auerbach.
Didn't recognize that.
Works for
voice.
ESPN, been around for a long, long time.
An hour or so.
Yeah. That's the Sirius XM College Sports Radio host, Nicole Auerbach. Like I said, she's been around forever, but like she was saying, just so many of the best candidates are locked up. And a lot of these athletic directors may be saying, I really want to move on from my head coach, but everybody that I would want to hire is being signed to extensions, and Lane Kiffin can only coach at one school at one time.
That's why I was kind of surprised that Auburn said to heck with it. Let's go ahead and get rid of Hugh Freeze. And I know Hugh Freeze was on his way out. Like, I get it. But, I mean, my gosh, to your point, what are you going to do? I mean, I feel like it's a horrible time to be a team, a program looking for a coach right now.
Well, if you're Auburn, you're already at best the third best job opening in the SEC right now. Why would you fire Hugh Freeze now when you know that he's kind of gotten screwed by bad calls multiple times this year? And there's a couple of losses. I'm not saying two wins and losses should keep you as a coach, but I mean, you're not going to get a better candidate than LSU. You're not going to get a better candidate than Florida. You're going to be competing with Arkansas for a head coach.
You don't think they could get Summerall at Auburn? You think they could get him? I think that. Let me tell you this. Auburn is in the dumps. Auburn's in the dumps. We know that. They've been in the dumps. But let me tell you, in this new era of college football, maybe I'm just a little too high on John Summerall. If Auburn went and got John Summerall and basically gave him a blank check and let him bring in who he wants to bring in and clean some house and get rid of some of that crap at Auburn, all of a sudden you look at Auburn and think, man, this might could work in a few years. You give this guy a couple of years, I think there'd be some optimism there.
Do you think some SEC programs are being scared off by the Billy Napier experiment at Florida?
Maybe, but that's a different guy.
He is, but he was an elite head coach at the G5 level in the Sun Belt. John Summerall was great in the Sun Belt at Troy, made his way over to Tulane, doing really good things there. Maybe you feel a little more confident because he's done it now at multiple G5 schools and he's done it at an American athletic school, which is a step up from the Sun Belt. So maybe you feel better about that, but there are some schools out there where it feels like fans are going to be disappointed if you hire even an elite G5 head coach. So those are the schools that will only hire power level coordinators because it makes fans feel a little better about it.
Hey, but the reality is if you're Auburn, why not hire Summerall now? There's no better time to be wrong than now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't get any worse.
Let's see. What is Tulane's record right now?
You can't get any worse, Diesel. You're already down in the dumps.
They're 6-2. So you're saying hire him behind the scenes?
No, I'm just saying hire him. When I say now, I mean hire him now instead of worrying about what your hire is going to be. Like my point being, the program's in the dumps.
Unless you're John Summerall and you think, hey, maybe LSU's calling, and I'd rather take the LSU job than the Auburn job.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if that were to be the case. But my point being, it's not like you're Alabama trying to replace Nick Saban.
True.
My point is you're trying to replace old Hugh. Go
Who
get
was trying to replace Brian Harsin.
That's true. Go get them. If it doesn't work in a few years, you hadn't lost any ground. You're still Auburn. What could it? I think it's a no-brainer. Give it a shot. If it works, you're the smartest AD in the SEC.
Next up, let's hear from Freddie Gonzalez, part of the Atlanta Braves organization, who has obviously been around that program or that franchise for a long time. Freddie Gonzalez talks about the hiring of Walt Weiss as the new manager in Atlanta.
What should Braves fans expect from Walt Weiss?
Well, you know what? It's funny, Steve, when the day, like 10 minutes before Walt was announced, Alex called me and said I wasn't going to come back. So I was kind of like down in the dumps a little bit. And then, the announcement hits 10 minutes later, and I got so excited for Walt Weiss and the people in the Atlanta area, in the Georgia area, everybody who follows the Atlanta Braves. I had an inkling that it could have been him right from the very beginning. If you go back to that exit press conference of Alex Anthopoulos, and he talked about one of the biggest traits that he wants from a manager is integrity. And right away, I'm thinking nobody has more integrity and for the game and love for the game and the way he takes care of people than Walt Weiss. So when he got named that, I was, I was so excited. I have not spoken to him. I think I'm going to try to talk to him today.
Try.
When you get named in those positions, the amount of text and phone calls that you get is unbelievable. So I'm going to give it a couple days, and I'm going to try to reach out to him today and congratulate him, tell him how happy I am, and I think the Atlanta Braves got the right guy.
Does a fired head coach congratulating you on your new head coach give you a whole lot of good feelings?
Fired third base coach.
Third base.
It does. I will say it did sound weird when he talked about that. It was weird, and I understand Freddie Gonzalez been around the organization, but I am a fan of. I hate the way this is going to sound, but I am a fan of firing Freddie Gonzalez, Rich Kranitz, Tom Goodwin. Get rid of all of them. Clean house, start over. Jeremy Hefner is the new pitching coach. Anton Richardson, the new first base coach. I like Freddie Gonzalez, but it might be time for some new blood. And Walt Weiss is bringing the old steady Eddie back, and it did sound a little cringy though.
Was Freddie Gonzalez not the main manager from 2011 to 2016?
You said the fired head coach.
Yeah, he was manager from 2011 to 16, wasn't he?
He was the third base coach just now, is what I was saying.
Okay. But he has been the Atlanta Braves manager before. He was manager for 5 years.
Yeah, you said the
you're
fired
right.
head coach.
You're correct. He was fired as the third base coach, but he was previously a manager of the Braves for 5 years. Really interesting stuff. I don't know if that makes Braves fans feel any better about the hire of Walt Weiss, but
it's kind of meh.
Hey, if they could have a Heisenberg night at Truist Park, I'm there. Walt Weiss, Walter White. Come on. I'm going to that. Running out of time here. Let's get to this one, Cole. Ben Roethlisberger, a little salty about what he's seeing go down in Pittsburgh. He's not happy that Aaron Rodgers is getting something that he didn't get.
I still think it's funny because they're giving Aaron DK all these things, and I got a center that never played center before my last year. Amazing. But
that's the same. That's the equivalent.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
My other thing
sounds butthurt.
Yeah, imagine that. Not good anymore. He's washed. He's out of the game. I don't blame him. I'd sound butthurt too.
Let's hear from Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Patriots, talking about trade deals, whether they go through or don't go through, in a kind of an odd comparison.
Deals are like being pregnant. You either are or you aren't. There's no it's either a deal or it's not. So I don't know how close you can be. I know that everyone worked hard, that we investigated and looked in and made phone calls and what personnel departments do.
Hey, whether a deal gets done or a deal doesn't get done, I like to know that my franchise's ownership and general manager are trying to make deals. I'd rather them try to make a deal and not get it done for whatever reason, because getting trade deals done is complex.
Yeah.
Than to say, no, we never called anybody.
It's true. I'm with you on that.
So interesting stuff there. There's a lot more audio, but we don't have time to get to all of it because we are going to be joined next by
Clay Hendricks, the one and only head football coach, the Furman Paladins. We talk to Coach Hendricks every Thursday at this time. I'm going to tell you about Prize Picks. We've got a Panther update for you, and then we're getting to Clay Hendricks to talk Furman Paladin football next. Paladins football with Clay Hendricks, the head football coach of your Furman Paladins. The Furman Paladins air every single game right here on the Fan Upstate. Always appreciate Coach Hendricks. They're 5-4 on the season after a tough loss, 52-28 to the number 13th ranked Mercer Bears on Saturday. Coach, I know by now it's Thursday. You're ready to flush that Mercer game, but we do have to pull a little teeth here and talk about those Bears that were so good on Saturday. Again, 52-28. What in your mind stood out about this year's 2025 Mercer football team that really makes them as dangerous as they are?
Well, I think I said even before, I thought they easily were the most complete team, we played against when you look at both sides of the ball, special teams, and just playing at a really high level. And I'd say especially offensively, but, I think they're kind of top 10 in the country in defense and offense. So, when they can do that, it just makes it tough. Quarterbacks has been exceptional, and again, just got a lot of playmakers everywhere, and they'll be a tough out for probably a bunch of teams. But I loved how we started the game, up 13-0, and we should have been off the field again. And, you're thinking you're going to get the ball back at midfield. And then, as well as they executed, there are a few times where we just kind of were our biggest enemy. And just when we had chances to make plays, we just didn't. And then, didn't play very well second quarter, came back the third quarter, and I think it's 31-28. I don't know, 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. And then again, we go through a stretch where we can't get them off the field and we can't stay on the field. So, a lot of good things to build on. We just have got to find a way to be able to execute at a high level, in key points of the game against good teams, for 4 quarters. And I thought our kids played hard. And, still our youth sometimes shows up. I think our first 3 touchdowns were all three different true freshmen, and then I think a sophomore scored our 4th one. So, just gotta keep working and putting ourselves back in that position.
Coach, talk about that decision on the first score to try to go for 2 there. What was the decision there, and what made you decide to be bold and go for it?
Well, they jumped off sides, so they put it on the 1.5, and I think we can make it on the 1.5 against anybody. And I thought we blocked them. We should have walked, and our back just tripped and fell on nobody. Fell on about the half-yard line, but I don't know. Josh Burrell made a heck of a block at the point of attack, and should have been an easy 2-pointer. And shoot, I'd love to have a 15-0 lead. I think at that point it kind of changes things a little bit. And I knew that was a game. There was going to be some points scored, but there's not many times I even think about that if that happens. And again, we did everything but stay on our feet and run into the end zone with it.
Coach, can you talk about the difference in the first and the second quarter? Obviously, the box score shows you guys scored 13 in the first, 0 in the second. They only scored 7 in the first, but then went on to score 17 in the second. When you talk about not being able to get them off the field and then you guys not sustaining drives long enough, how does that switch flip from 1 quarter to 2 as you saw it on Saturday?
Well, that's a good question. Now, I would say this. I mean, I think you got to give people credit where credit's due, and at the end of the day, just their ability to protect and make throws, and again, they do a lot of really good things offensively. And like I said, I kind of use this example. We're up 13-0, and we've got them 3rd and 6. I don't know, back about the 10-15 line, and we run it. Coach makes a really good call, and, we pressure them, and, but on that, we've got a defense tackle supposed to wrap to the quarterback, and we flushed him right to him. Well, he didn't wrap. And, so you figure it's going to be a sack or at least a throwaway. Well, he gets out, and then the safety's in good coverage, and then he looks in the backfield and loses his guy. Next thing, it turns into a little scramble drill that everybody works. And he hits him for a first down, and then I don't know, about 6 plays later, they were in the end zone. They made a 3rd and 16. I think when you look at them, you know, they were 10 of 16 on 3rd down, which that's like a crazy number. That's, you know, I coached some triple option stuff. That sounded like a triple option game. And you were having those because you have a lot of 3rd and shorts. And they probably had their share of short yardage ones, but they had a lot of them were, you know, we were in a pretty good position. We just got to be able to get off the field, and you know, we got to cover better. We got to rush the passer. You know, we didn't get to him very much. We hit him some, but we didn't get enough pressure. And again, he does a really good job of distributing the ball. And then, you know, for us, obviously, probably a lot of too many 3rd and longs. You know, and again, it's hard to live in the 3rd and long world.
Yeah. You
know, and continue to make those against a really, really good defense that rushes the passer really well. So, you know, kind of a combination of factors there. And, you know, when you do those things, yeah, it's kind of like I said, we just got to get back so we can execute. And, you know, yeah, we can't always control what the other team's doing, but we can control being where we're supposed to be. And you know, I didn't think we had a lot of mental mistakes, you know, throughout the game, but there were some that hurt us. And again, when you play good teams, it just gets magnified.
Coach, as we turn the page to this upcoming game against Chattanooga, they're a 4-5 football team, but you look up and down their schedule, they've had games where they've scored a lot of points. You know, that Sanford game and that East Tennessee State game, they put up a lot of points in those two. And I mean, they put up 28 points in a loss to Western Carolina. How much do you feel like you need to hold them down to defensively? Do you feel like if you can hold them to 21 points or 24 points, you have a chance to win, or can you score with them to stay with Chattanooga?
Well, I don't know. I just think every game, particularly in our league, I think it's that way a little bit in college football now. Every game's a little different. You know, it's a little bit about, I think college football really is largely about matchups. There's just certain teams you match up better maybe against than others. They're not going to have the same passing attack. They're a little bit more of a want to run the football, and they certainly can hurt you. But yeah, I think when you look at them, you know, they played kind of a brutal non-conference game. You know, they played Memphis, they played Tarleton, who I think got their first loss last week. They played Tennessee Tech, who still hadn't lost. That was 3 of their non-conference games. And then they were 17 down against East Tennessee and rallied in the fourth quarter and won. I don't know. I see us as two pretty similar teams. They lost a lot of guys through graduation in the portal. They're one of those groups, and I don't know. I've always felt like they've always been one of the more talented teams in our league. They're a little younger, maybe, than they have been some years. So I don't know. I think we kind of match up pretty evenly in a lot of ways. So again, it's going to come down to who can go play at a high level. You know, they're playing with a 7th-year quarterback. His first year at Chattanooga, but it's his 7th year, which is crazy, you know. And he's a big guy that runs well, throws it pretty well.
He should.
You know? So you're going to have to.
Yeah, Coach, he's 30. He's 35. Shouldn't he be playing well at 35 by now?
His first year of college was my 3rd year coaching at Furman, you know. And that was my 3rd year as head coach, and this is year 9. So, you know, I didn't know that till I got to looking at it. And I was like, holy moly, you know. But, you know, I don't know. Good, favorable matchup. You know, I think for us, where we are, I think we start, I think it's 8 freshmen or sophomores on defense. It would have been 9 if we lost one of our better linebackers early in the year. He's a sophomore too, but you know, and that shows up sometimes. But you know, we had some good young guys make a bunch of plays, and we're just trying to continue to build and develop players. And you know, at this point in time of the year, we should not be making some of the mistakes we make. But again, that's kind of part of it. We got a chance to, you know, went out in you know, a conference, and you know, I think would probably put us 3rd, you know. And I think probably right now would be a good finish for us and the group we have, and then we get on to December and all this stuff that's awaiting us, you know, in this off season stuff. So, you know, as you try to continue to develop and you know, keep your guys together.
We're joined by Clay Hendricks. He's the head Furman football coach. He joins us every Thursday at this time. Coach, you've been doing this a long, long time, especially in this conference. What has this conference taught you in 2025?
Well, it's funny. This is my 32nd year in this conference, when you count playing, assistant, and as a head coach. And I think right now it's probably different than it's ever been because of the NIL stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know because there's still a lot of unknowns about what exactly people are doing. It's pretty easy to see, look around the country at some teams that they all of a sudden got a lot better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess coaching, I'm sure, has got something to do with that. But maybe some programs haven't been as good. There's a reason why Vanderbilt's winning, because their ability, the quarterback and the waivers and all that stuff. You look at, golly, you just look at somebody like Indiana.
Yeah.
And the job Coach Signetti's done. I was playing against him. We played him in a playoff game my first year at Furman. When he was at Elon, but I think a combination of the coaching and obviously, what they've been doing financially. You look at South Florida, who's always been okay, and all of a sudden, and again, lots of them. So, and it's kind of hard to distinguish. I think the days of truly trying to, we've always kind of been a recruit, retain, develop group, and I still think we can be that largely because we haven't lost a lot of kids. But, next thing you know, you get in our league and each year somebody's entire roster changes.
Sure.
And, man, it can go the other way, too. It can go badly.
Coach, a follow-up to that, though, on that NIL front, does that, in your opinion, put schools like Furman where the academic standards are a little bit different than other schools, maybe even in your conference? Does that put those schools that really value academics at a disadvantage when you talk about NIL, just in terms of other schools being able to go out and really get anybody they want to that can play football? And for you guys, it's tougher, obviously, to bring all of those really good football players in, depending on their academics.
Well, there's not a little difference. there's a large difference, in a lot of it. I do think this. I do think, for us, we got to keep recruiting the right kid to Furman who values being here, values the education. You never hear that word anymore.
Sure.
It never comes up, and this portal in January creates so many problems within the educational part of it. Just how you administer. I'm not sure that ever even got talked about, when they came up with these things. But, I still think that, we certainly have to address the NIL aspect of it. But again, I think for us, we just got to manage what we can, keep bringing kids that are fits at Furman, value the quality of teammates and the people you get to be around. They value the education. That doesn't mean that's always going to keep them here, but I know it helps. Again, if we've got the right kid here, and I think we've continued to do that. Now the challenge is, again, you're playing people that somebody can completely flip their roster in the next year, and so you got to play those people every year. And again, it may not work out, but with that comes talent. So when you're seeing that they're a lot more talented, and it's pretty easy to spot. When you look around the country, there's some people that were good programs that have become really good. Some people haven't been very good, but I again think we're all trying to figure it out as we go.
Coach, one of my favorite things about, the community there at Furman is the tight-knit nature of it. I've been to a handful of basketball games, and you'll see the entire offensive line there cheering them on, or you'll see the lacrosse team there cheering them on. What is your pitch to your players, and maybe a great way to keep them together face-to-face with one another and keep that camaraderie going, to try to send them off to other sporting events together to help support those teams as well?
Well, that's something we highly encourage. I think, we always talk about supporting your classmates because that's who they are. A lot of our guys certainly have friends. It's sometimes maybe a little easier to get them to go to the female event. You can figure that one out. But we got a bunch of guys that love basketball, and I'm sure they're going to go, and it sometimes you need to go because you need to go. It's what you need to do. Sometimes you do because you want to go. You want to be there. You want to support them. And so I don't know. I do think that's something we could stress, and we tried to continue to stress. Heck, when I was at school at Furman, we were still playing at the old auditorium downtown, and I enjoyed going, but it was a hassle, just to make that track. And the downtown Greenville was a little different those days too, but certainly with Timmons and what they've done there, with the 2 basketball programs, and whether it's volleyball or lacrosse, certainly this time of year it's hard for us. Basketball's just getting going. Certainly it's a little easier for our guys to get out and about in the winter and spring, because we're pretty busy, and obviously got a big basketball game tomorrow night. We won't be in town because we'll be in Chattanooga. So, no, we'll continue to push that. We certainly would love for them to be at our place, when we're playing, and I know a lot of them are. Sometimes it's a little harder to see them in the football aspect of it because, the stadium atmosphere is a little different, the size-wise. They're a little easier to spot, in the arena, in the basketball arena. But we'll continue to push for that, and I think our guys want to do that.
Well, Coach, you're the best. As always, we appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week. Good luck Saturday.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Clay Hendricks, head football coach of the Furman Paladins. Love Clay, keeping it light, Diesel.
Yeah.
Even on a tough week, tough loss, but he's keeping it light. I love it.
Chattanooga is a pretty good team, even though their record doesn't necessarily reflect it. That's going to be a big test for them this weekend.
On the road, too.
And then they follow it up with VMI, a team that's 1-8 at this point in the season. So they have an opportunity, Cole, to end this season out on 2 really good conference wins.
Yeah.
Then, of course, Clemson's coming up the week after that, and Clemson has not been great. So what if Furman shocked the upstate and took down Clemson in the last week of the season?
Wouldn't put it past it right now, right? You wouldn't do it.
No, I would not. When we come back, Cole, we never got a chance to get to them earlier in the show, so let's do them next. We'll wrap it all up with our Daily Wires. The 3 o'clock hour, we didn't get a chance to get to the Daily Wires. The buzz happening around the
we
sports
had callers.
world.
It was great.
That's true. We had a lot of callers.
We love
We love it. Tonight in the NFL, kind of a lopsided matchup. The 2-6 Las Vegas Raiders taking on the 7-2 Denver Broncos. Broncos 8.5-point favorites.
Yeah, could be lopsided, but you never know. Maybe the Raiders. I kind of like the Raiders tonight just to cover, but we'll see.
Well, you'll be able to watch because it's on Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
You won't be able to watch the college football game, just as Cornship won't be able to watch.
No,
because Georgia Southern taking on App State at 7:30 on ESPN.
I've been busy this week and hadn't been able to do it, but tomorrow during the show, I might do it live. How about that? A tease.
All right.
Live on air. Cancel YouTube TV.
UTSA also taking on South Florida at 7:30. App State favored by 5.5 points at home. USF favored by 13.
What do you think? I mean, how you feeling?
I got no faith in this team.
Oh, my God.
Literally anything.
Diesel?
No. App State always craps the bed in prime time. I really feel – I texted a friend of mine earlier who's a fellow alum, and I said, watch. App State's going to have a lead, a small lead, throw a pick six in the fourth quarter, and then not be able to recover, get down the field, and score.
Six?
It's going to happen.
Now,
It's
they're
gonna
favored,
happen.
though, so, you know.
Yeah. A couple Tolos have taken this game, by the way. If you want to, you've got about 3 minutes left to text in at 844-FAN-PHONE with this pick as your upset picks challenge. It is open for business. Send them in. We need your name, your game, and the spread. Spurs center Victor Wembanyama expressed confidence in slowing down a game that feels fast right now after the Lakers became the second straight opponent to hold him in check during a 118-116 San Antonio loss yesterday at Crypto.com Arena. Quote, personally, I haven't seen this kind of defense from teams, so we need to adapt as a collective. In the Phoenix game, it was the case as well. We got stalled out sometimes. We're learning.
And I also like that from a star, a superstar that's going to be a really good star in this league. The fact that he says, you know what, I'm not there yet. Give me more of that. That guy, he's not there yet. He's got to continue to get better.
That close to getting him.
Wasn't good enough for the Hornets.
That close to getting
Wasn't
him.
good enough. These.
Yeah, it's collusion. They made sure that he was going to San Antonio, not Charlotte. Speaking of Charlotte, the Carolina Panthers running back Rico Dowdle was fined by the NFL for his celebration during a touchdown dance in Sunday's 16-13 upset win over the Packers. It was a sketch from Key and Peele. If you've never seen it, he puts his hands on the back of his head and he pumps his crotch, and that was
But
a
he
Key
did
and
it
Peele.
twice.
He did it twice.
Yeah. You can't thrust pump twice.
Right. Too many thrusts.
That's right.
$14,491 was the total fine.
Wow.
BYU tailback and Big 12 rushing leader LJ Martin is expected to play on Saturday on the road at number 9 Texas Tech. That's huge for them. We talked about this earlier, Cole. Really sad news. The Dallas Cowboy defensive end Marshawn Nealand died Thursday morning from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. You never know what people are going through, so try to be compassionate.
Terrible, man. It is so terrible, and you're right. You hate hearing things like that. Tolo's a big Friday show. We've got Furman basketball on this radio dial tomorrow night as well. A big Friday. We'll see you then. Tolo.